have such sights to show you.
We're Poppin the Scary Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Coale, and with me as always, I have my good friend and co-host, Aaron.
Woo!
Aaron, you know what it is.
Happy Potiversary.
Yes, Potiversary. See, I knew you would come up with something more clever than what I could, besides just a good old
Right
anniversary.
Off the dome. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been another year of
year
of podcasts. I know, super crazy. We've been going on for this long and everything else,
Yeah.
and I know typically around this time, I usually like to get a bit of a retrospective and everything else because as it currently stands, we have watched almost 100 horror movies up to this point and everything.
I can't even count that high.
I believe in you.
Yeah.
You can do it.
I don't have that many
possible.
fingers.
There's lots of master classes you could take.
Okay, well, I think I probably better start at the beginner class.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess without trying to sound repetitive about the usual retrospectives and everything else, I am sort of curious because you have brought up previous comments in other episodes and everything else, sort of detailing on what has made you really like horror as a genre and everything else. And I was hoping that maybe we could take time to kind of maybe instead of saying oh, what'd you learn about this year? Because I feel like we kind of beat the dead horse and everything else. So maybe in this introspective, up to this point, obviously you have liked horror films. What do you think it is about the horror genre concurrently that has made you have such a keen interest in continuing to explore the many facets of horror and everything else, the different outlets and genre, everything else?
Well, I mean, I think there's a multifaceted answer here, but I'll be brief about it as possible. One is because I'm hanging out with one of my best buds doing horror podcasts, and you love horror, and so I love indulging in your hobbies with you in a pure friendship-oriented way. So that's one factor. But then I also just I've grown to appreciate, as you've shown me some of these films, and as we've discovered films together and watched some for the first time, to like the genre. I think maybe when I was coming into it, I hadn't experienced a lot of horror, and maybe some preconceptions about what cinema is and what's worthwhile for watching a film or whatever. And I think I tossed a lot of those notions since at this point in the podcast, realizing the value in a lot of even the campier, cheesier, bad effects, the dated this, that, or the other, to find enjoyment in the camp, to find enjoyment in the tropes and the various genre elements of this, and yeah, so I enjoy horror as an art form now a lot more than I think I did whenever I began. And some of my favorite movies, some of the few movies that I've rated a 10 out of 10 in my life, have been through this podcast. So it's been nice to see things through a horror lens, even movies that I didn't even think of necessarily as horror before this. I was like, yeah, I've seen Alien, that's a cool sci-fi movie, but I was like, yeah, of course it's sci-fi horror. Now it's pretty obvious to me, but at the time, going in for the first time to this genre, I was like, I have a pretty thin definition of what horror should be, and now I'm like, oh, I see horror and horror elements everywhere. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I was always curious about your perspective on it and everything else, because you had mentioned, I want to say, in the last 10 episodes about or something like that, just kind of talking about your overall appreciation that you've gained about horror and everything else, because I definitely think it's probably just, your perspective that you've given and everything else, which I definitely always appreciate you taking interest in the things that I'm significantly interested in. Yeah. But another thing is that I am sort of I was just curious just about your overall perception of it, and especially having consistently gotten together to watch these horror films over the years and just kind of how your overall view of the genre is. So I definitely I think you definitely have a lot of big valid points and everything else. And truth be told, whenever it comes to horror and everything else, I do kind of lean more towards the cheesier aspects, the more fun and everything else, as opposed to being horrified. Because Lord knows, real life is already filled enough with real life horrors and everything else.
Right.
So having that sort of cheesier sense of escapism and everything else, I felt like has always been a highlight for me. Watching horror films and everything else, and so I think
it's one of the most fun genres. I think. I mean, they really, I think, lifting the limitations that you have to lift in order to show blood and boobies and gore and everything also lifts a lot of other like constraints and pressures that might be on you from a studio. I feel like a lot of people, especially because a lot of these are small budget films that end up getting popular or cult followings or whatever. It allows you to have a lot more creativity with the shots, with the effects, but also with the story and the because people kind of know it's going to be goofy or cheesy or something. That's not only an expectation but like a desire from a lot of horror movie audiences. Is I want to see, like, when I go into a goofy film from the 70s, I want to see some like bad effects and stuff, depending on the film. So yeah, I think I think the genre itself lends to a lot of fun and energy that I've come to appreciate.
Well, that's good. I definitely am glad that you've definitely grown to appreciate the genre, and we'll have to see how this appreciation goes whenever we dive into today's episode, which is a remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Remakes.
Yes, so obviously we've watched a few remakes here on the podcast and everything else. And for the most part, it's been one of those things where it's just kind of like sort of a hit or miss situation, I feel like. But I feel like that's just remakes in general. Now, just to kind of help reiterate to the audience and everything else like that, whenever it comes to horror remakes in particular, what's sort of the view you hold upon that?
I mean, it really depends. I feel like you can kind of tell a little bit. Sometimes they're making a horror movie remake because the director really loves the film and they've really lobbied to make this thing happen and they have a vision for it and it's cool. A lot of the times when they remake these films, it's because it's the studio that wants another bag of cash. And I feel like you can kind of so there's definitely some middle ground between those two things, but a lot of times when there's a remake in general these days, horror or not, it's some sort of slop in order to get you some money because it's a movie that you enjoyed once, so you'll probably enjoy it again. Is what the studios bank off of. So, like, I don't necessarily have like a great opinion of a remake on the base, but like, it depends on what it is. If it's sometimes it's a loving remake or a remake with a twist, a new idea. They make a million Superman movies, but the latest one was actually good because somebody was like, "Hey, I want to make a good Superman movie." So it's hit or miss.
Yeah, I think that's totally understandable and everything else. I will say, like, it's one of those things that technically some of the remakes we've watched on the podcast, we have not been able to compare to the original film. Yeah. Sometimes more so or less because whenever it came to my focus on this podcast, I'm focusing on the horror that, Aaron and I would have seen growing up and everything else. And so films like, Gore Verbinski's The Ring or The Grudge, something of that nature would have been more well known to us during our age than Ringer or Ju-on and everything, since obviously, growing up and everything else, we never really heard about those foreign films as much until, you dive deeper into the horror genre. Right. And of course, now it's like more mainstream than anything else just due to the strength of the internet and everything else like that. So this is going to be kind of interesting because as far as I can remember, aside from those two films, the only film I think we've seen a direct remake comparison to is My Bloody Valentine and everything else. And I know it chose that one specifically because I felt like the remake actually brought a lot of interesting aspects and sort of reinvented. They took liberties, I guess, in being able to explore other stuff and everything else. And I remember for the most part, you were pretty even keel with both of them, maybe liking the remake barely more and everything else just because...
The caveat is I didn't really love either of those.
Yes, exactly. So I am very curious. The idea of Michael Bay produced remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
This is Michael Bay? Okay.
Michael Bay produced this film. Now,
I honestly have a little bit of faith in him. Not a lot.
so I want to kind of hear your idea of having faith in him for a remake of this, because obviously the whole preconception of Michael Bay is explosion, Transformers, everything else like that. So what is it about him producing a remake to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that actually puts faith in this project? I'm just curious on kind of how your thought process is going.
Well, I think Michael Bay gets a little bit of a bad rap because of all the Transformers movies, and but the first Transformers movie wasn't bad. It's been a while since I've seen it, so maybe it is worse than I remember. But I think Michael Bay's style is naturally cheesy and big and and I think that lends itself pretty well to horror generally, to be over the top and to be as a defining style, and especially when it comes to violence. So I think a lot of people think Michael Bay action, which of course, but So I kind of think those aspects of this film might be good. That being said, I just haven't heard any good things about a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and that lends me to believe that there's probably bad things to be said about it. But I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting to me. It was like around this time frame, where a lot of these slashers were getting sort of a reboot and everything else, because this came out in about 2003. And then they had a Friday the 13th reboot remake in 2009. And then they had a Nightmare on Elm Street one in 2010. And I believe Rob Zombie had his Halloween remake films kind of towards the mid-2000s as well. So it seemed like a lot of these sort of classic slashers were getting sort of a reboot and everything else. But honestly, this is kind of one of the first ones to bring up that reboot. And I do think you bring up an interesting aspect about it, because the last few Texas Chainsaw Massacre films we have seen have amped up the cheese. I think it's just the first one where, even though Toby did have the intention of making it more of a dark comedy, it kind of just bounced back to just being kind of straight up horrific and everything else. It was kind of like an accidental masterpiece, almost, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
With the situation.
Yeah.
So I feel like while I do see your train of logic and everything else, obviously, just so you know, I've seen this remake before. It's been a hot minute.
Okay,
It's been a very hot minute and everything else, and I will reserve my overall feelings I have. I obviously will divulge more about my initial feelings versus my revisited feelings just to feel about it. But it was one of those things that my wife had actually seen the remake and not the original of this film. Just because, again, 2000s, that's around the time that we're getting older enough, more interested into horror and everything else like that. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely surprised with the bit of optimism you have going into it. Not saying you're wrong by any means, but I kind of expected you to kind of be going into this, especially after the last film being like,
yeah, it was really bad. But I think that's part of what gives me some optimism, because after that movie, if you're gonna make another Texas Chainsaw movie, I feel like there's at least some pressure on you as a director to be like, well, we can't make it shit, because then they'll never make another one of these again.
Yes.
But I don't know. I genuinely think I guess probably most of the time a horror sequel is made of any kind, whether it's a remake or just a or whatever, it tends to be not as good as the first. So I'm not expecting to give this more than a 7 going in, but I don't know. I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think there could be something there with a Michael Bay directing a classic horror franchise remake.
All right, well,
but maybe there's not. I don't know.
Well, I think you have good expectations going in, obviously knowing that remakes are rarely ever top the original source material
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything else. But we're gonna have to see how our own thoughts compare to one another after we get right back with y'all after watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Remake.
And we are back from watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and joining with us once again, as per tradition for the last few years, we have hailing over from the East Coast, Dave Dr. Shock Becker joining us once again. Dave, thank you so much for being here. It is always an extreme pleasure having you on our podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm not going to miss it. We still got I was thinking about it. We still got, I think, like 3 or 4 more films after this one.
Yeah, there's still quite a few and everything else to catch up, which in all honesty, I'd rather them not be churning them out like other franchises, because rarely do franchises get the right rhythm a lot of the time and everything else.
Yes.
And so I guess diving into this podcast episode, I know Aaron and I have our initial thoughts, and while we were waiting to get set up, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a spicy podcast episode, because with me, I kind of was thinking more favorable about it, and Aaron, on the other hand, is having kind of more, not so much negative stuff, but definitely sort of questionable overall.
Okay.
Yeah. We haven't dived into because we wanted to keep it fresh for the podcast, but
Understood.
I have some critiques.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but before diving in to all that and everything else, since we already kind of talked about our own perspective of the remake and everything else like that, Dave, do you have any sort of like initial history thoughts whenever it was announced that they were going to be remaking the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, being produced by Michael Bay?
Well, yeah. I mean, very apprehensive when you first hear it. I mean, it's my favorite horror film of all time, obviously the original. And when you hear they're going to remake it, I was like, oh, you sort of groan a little, and you're like, okay, well, that's why remake it. Um, but I found, and through this one, I found that I'm not really as much as anti remake as I am. As a matter of fact, there's only one movie on my top 10 that they remade that I refuse to watch. And
Oh,
we can get to
really?
that in a little bit later, but I will not watch it just because everything I've heard about it, it's like they didn't even get what was good about the first one. But other than that, I mean, I saw this and I'm like, you know what? I have some issues as well, but overall, I liked what they did with it. I liked where they went with it, and I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it to a degree. I actually liked it even a little bit more now than I did the first time, which surprised me. The first time I saw it and I liked it, I was like, wow, I did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm curious and everything else, because I mean, I looked at your DVD infatuation blog and I could have skipped it over. Have you personally ever typed up your own thoughts and feelings on it? Or has it been one of those films that you just kind of watched and you mold your feelings over with maybe mentioning it and passing on podcast and such?
Well, it probably mentioned in podcast. I did not review it on the blog. You'll notice that when I'm doing a franchise, I usually stop right before the movie I hate the most in the franchise. So that's why you also did not see anything for Next Generation.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. And
So
like
I'm
I
like,
said,
okay, I can't go forward with it because I'm not reviewing that. I'm not
Yeah.
wasting my time to review
I
that.
I don't
You know.
I don't blame you at all whatsoever, which is why I was grateful Greg Mortis was here with us last year to kind of help support us all through it. But in all honesty, I was surprised he trashed it arguably maybe the most out of anybody, even more than you, surprisingly.
He was not a fan either, and it's just one of those things. It's just, well, we don't have to rehash it. I mean, it's
Oh,
out there
yeah.
already. But that's the reason I never reviewed the remake, was because I said, I'm not reviewing number 4 to get to the remake.
Yeah, I do not blame you at all, and we're at greener pastures for the time being, at the very
Yes.
least, and
Yeah,
everything.
for the
So,
time being, yes.
yeah, and I may be putting you on the spot, but I feel like it's always a tradition for y'all on Land of the Creeps and everything else. Dave, did you want to go ahead and give us a general synopsis for the audience as to what the main plot of the Texas Chainsaw remake is?
Sure. And I'm just going to go to IMDb for this one.
Oh, yeah, I knew you wouldn't let me down at all, Dave.
Nope, I got it. After picking up a traumatized young hitchhiker, 5 friends find themselves stalked and hunted by a deformed chainsaw wielding loon and his family of equally psychopathic killers. I don't. Well, yeah, I guess they are sort of stalked and hunted. I guess. Sometimes they also stumble in.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious and everything else, because I guess this is the first time we've ever talked to you about your overall feelings on remakes and everything else. And out of curiosity, with remakes and everything, what's kind of your overall thoughts on the idea of remaking a film, like whether they should be as faithful to the source material as much as possible, or if they should explore other ideas about the film or something? Like, where do you typically align, and are you able to judge a remake solely on its own merits, or do you, because it's literally a remake, have to kind of compare it to the original?
I one of the things I like about the remakes that I like the most are the ones that change it up, that do something a little different. Probably my favorite remake, and it's funny because it's my I think it's my 4th favorite horror film of all time, is the original Evil Dead from 1981. But I love the remake. I really like the, I think, 2013 remake as well,
Yes.
because they keep some of it the same, but they change up enough, and I think they did that with this movie too. It's set in 73, which is, the other one, it was contemporary, but this one they set it in 73. They have John Larroquette back to do the narration, which I love. I'm sure he got paid a lot more this time than he did the first time. I think the first time they just gave him some joints, and that was that. I think this time, he probably said, "Hey, I'm going to need a little bit more pay." And they also, probably the thing that like what they did right. I guess we'll start there. What they did right. They also brought back Daniel Pearl as the cinematographer,
I did not know that.
because the first one was as gritty as it was. There were some amazing shots in that movie, like the long shots of the van going down the road, and that little I guess track shot of following the girl in, when Kirk is in after he got hit on the head, following her off the swing up the steps into the it was a very well shot movie, and I think this one is as well. He copies some of it, but not everything. What I always think of, and it's been a while since I had watched it, but I always think of that shot, and this isn't a spoiler because the hitchhiker shoots herself, and this is probably the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Shoots herself in the car, and how the camera tracks back. You see their reaction goes right out the hole in her head, right out the back of the windshield.
That shot did
And
me crazy.
yeah, now I know that's got some computer effects going there as well, but it's still Daniel Pearl really brought a lot of skill to this, that like he did the first one, and I think it elevated it above. Elevated the first one from just sort of a grindhouse type of horror movie, and it elevated this one from just a basic run of the mill remake.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, and that actually makes perfect sense, because this is about, I believe, the second, maybe third time, I'm not sure. I did get the recently released Arrow 4K edition of this, which definitely was very nicely polished compared to the like Blu-ray I have from like 2009 or something like that, so it's nearly 20 years old.
That's pretty good, because I'm still working on a DVD that I got like 6 months after it was released.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a keeper for sure and everything. Been around since '03. It's like 22 years old. It's old enough to
I
drink and
know.
everything.
I can't believe it. I can't
Oh my
believe it's been
gosh.
that long.
But that's so interesting you mentioned about the cinematography because that was one of my favorite things about this film. Like there were some shots where I was like, that is a good shot. Like obviously like that scene like going through the hitchhiker's head and
Yes.
everything else. Like it's just it's more so kind of comedic, which again kind of leads towards Toby's initial idea for the first one is that he wanted to make it more comedy than horror,
Yes.
but that clearly failed in the best way possible and everything to
Right.
where it was horrifying. But there's actually some shots where like genuinely like I felt like it was a combination of stuff. Like I felt like the locations they shot at, like it felt genuine. I felt like I was in Texas because
South for sure,
whenever
yeah.
Aaron and I went down towards the Austin area, whenever we did the very first episode and walked around, like it genuinely felt like we were traveling in the same places they were at. But there's one shot in particular. I won't get into spoilers and everything because it's towards the end of the film, but I was genuinely impressed with this, that there's a scene where, spoiler, Leatherface is chasing an individual in a dark field, and it like literally recreates the same sort of shot they did with Marilyn Burns running through the field, where it's like
Yes.
the camera slowed down, and I was like, that's actually brilliant because it doesn't detract or anything else. It's just like a good homage, and the fact that it's the same cinematographer doing it is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely the right move. I'm trying to see who was the director of this one. Marcus Nispel. Okay, I'm guessing. I'm not sure what else he's done. I got to look him up.
No.
Um, because I think I give most of the credit to, obviously, for this to Daniel Pearl. He did the Friday the 13th remake.
I did not realize that until just now looking at the IMDb, which is funny. We haven't reviewed the remake of Friday the 13th, but that's a very interesting film for me, but it's sort of kind of in the same vein where I felt like it was treated with a little bit more respect than a lot of remakes are typically.
And
I
what
would
and what
say.
well, with the Friday the 13th, it's almost as if they were remaking 1 and 2
Yes, which I
with
thought was a
that one.
smart play, like
Yeah,
very smart to do it that way. But
because
and
you couldn't do the first one because of who the killer was in the first one. So you
yes,
had to just sort of have that as almost like the opening of the movie and then get into Jason.
yes, and I'm gonna have to personally cut myself off there because that's like my favorite franchise, and I could talk your
Okay.
ear off about that. So
Okay.
for the sake of not detracting and making it a movie review where you and I talk and Aaron's like, I haven't seen this, so I have nothing to say.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but that's cool to know that he directed that. Kind of back to back and everything. But
Yeah, and it
I
looks
I
like he also directed a remake for Conan the Barbarian, which I have
I
not seen.
I have not seen either, but given the fact I've heard, I didn't even know there was a Conan Barbarian remake.
I
I don't
didn't
know what
either
that
till I just
says.
saw that. I had no idea, and I'm a big fan of the first one, but I
Yeah,
did not know there was a remake.
well, maybe you should just continue not knowing about it, maybe. But yeah, and so like that's the thing I appreciated about this film is that it took a lot of liberties with again giving the same sort of feeling the original film did with a lot of
Right.
like the landscaping shots and the way it's shot and everything else because
Hmm.
I just it's one of those things that I felt like it didn't feel like just a modern Hollywood sort of like shooting film. Like they would literally take some shots like illuminating like I guess the Sawyer household is the best way I can
Hmm.
call that concrete building with that
Hewitt. It's the
backlight and
Hewitts
everything.
now, is what it
Oh
is. The
right.
Hewitt family. Yeah.
Dang. Which is so funny. I'm curious as to why they changed the last name from Sawyer to Hewitt.
I that's that. I would wonder that myself. I don't. They changed other things, but I wouldn't think that's something that needed to change.
Yeah, and
There was no reason to do that, as far as I know, anyway.
Yeah, which I guess that's going to be kind of an interesting point to explore. Aaron, did you have anything about the cinematography you had to point out and everything? I always like
Oh,
to
no.
see what you see.
I mean, I think I'm on the same page as y'all. I love that. I noticed several different homage shots to the first film, including that track shot of the woman heading up to the house. That was so iconic in the first film. They sort of recreated that a little bit with I think Aaron is the name of the character in this film. Walking up to the house again,
Yes.
that sort of low tracking shot into the Sawyer thing. So I
Yes.
mean, I thought it was awesome. I thought cinematography was definitely one of the stronger aspects of this film. My critiques lie elsewhere.
Yes, for sure. And I think one of the things we can talk about is the fact that this is not a shot-for-shot remake of the
No.
Texas Chainsaw
No,
Massacre,
they
which
do take liberties,
which-
but not too much.
which in all honesty, I feel like is the best case to do, given the fact that I genuinely feel like there is not much you can do to improve the original film and
Right.
everything else. So it's like trying to do it shot for shot would just feel kind of soulless and pointless. So the fact that they do different stuff to where basically it's almost like it's vaguely reminiscent of the original plot and everything else.
But it
you know?
has its own vision for sure.
Yes, which I think is
Yeah.
definitely great. I was going to ask you, Dave, what was your thoughts about how they handled sort of changing the overall storyline a bit and everything else, and the decisions they chose, not only for the main cast and crew and everything else, but just sort of the story narrative, I suppose.
I liked it. I liked that they did not, they sort of dropped the whole uh, cemetery, for, I guess the cemetery subplot from the first one, that they were traveling there to check on the grave of their grandfather because there was word that graves had been vandalized, and exhumed. Some bodies had been exhumed. So I liked that they were on their way to a concert. I liked how they set things up with the hitchhiker this time.
Mm-hmm.
It lets people know. It lets the fans of the original know, hey, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm not 100% sure I know what's going to happen here. You have an idea, and you can sort of guess, okay, there will probably be a final girl. And you also get that idea because it also opens with the police touring that area
Mm-hmm.
with video. So okay, so someone got word out that this is a bad place. So okay, somebody's probably going to make it. So I like that they changed that up, but I love that they kept it in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
They kept it at the same time, because then you don't have the whole thing with cell phones and all this other stuff. They kept it at that time, and I thought they did a decent job, at least giving the vibe of that time period. Something the first film didn't have to bother with because they were shooting it in 1973.
Right.
But
Yeah.
this one, they sort of had to recapture that, and I thought they did a decent job with that. And I did like the cast of
Mm-hmm.
the young of the kid. Well, not kids. I guess they're 20 somethings.
Yeah.
Jessica Biel, Jonathan Tucker. I've seen him in a few movies. I really like him. He played Morgan. Her boyfriend, Eric Balfour, played Kemper. Jessica Biel's boyfriend.
Yeah.
He is actually no, I've seen him in a number of movies, and he's a good actor. When I
Mm-hmm.
saw him in there, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm glad to see him there because he's a really strong actor. I didn't have a problem with the casting of the young the I guess the victims this time
Yes.
around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like it's sort of interesting and everything else, which it's always man, I lost my whole train of thought in caboose. How about that?
I'm sorry about
No,
that.
no, no, you're good. I was just getting tongue tied on my own words. I guess I was thinking about like overall narrative changes, but then I got sidetracked with the characters. But I'm of the same opinion that I felt like the route they chose to change and everything else, rarely was there anything where I was like, I wish they would have done it like they did in this film, or I wish they would have done that. And one of the positives I would have to say overall is the fact that I feel like like you mentioned, Dave, the victims that we're stuck with at the beginning of the film, I would argue are a lot more likable than the original. Now, granted, I would never ever say that they're more iconic than, like Sally or our Aaron's beloved Franklin or anything else like that. But at the same point, they definitely were just kind of more ditzy, dumb, obnoxious, typical teenagers in a horror slasher film.
Franklin was annoying. Sally was with her boyfriend and her friends, and and they're just sort of playing around and goofing around and things like that. Reading about astrology, which certainly dates the movie to a degree. Not so much. People still do astrology and everything, but with sort of what they were. So it's. I think though. We can get into like the differences and the things that I did have issues with. We could wait for that, but at least when it comes to the characters, I don't disagree with you. I think that we spend more time with these characters. We get to know them more. We see the relationships between them. Jonathan Tucker's Morgan is sort of depicted as the biggest jerk, but everybody should have listened to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because one of the things that I picked up this time round that I genuinely thought was an interesting point, that again, it's like, this is really interesting in a horror film where, again, the victims, I mostly care about like the kills and everything else like that, is they have this whole argument throughout this entire ordeal about a sense of morality, and the fact that whenever it comes to the hitchhiker taking her own life and everything, they're trying to figure out like what are they going to do and everything else. And it's that morality that ends up causing them not to be able to leave at all whatsoever.
It really is that. Yeah. Now you understand in the first one why they can't leave, because we've talked that there's no learning in that. Nobody knows. Sally and Franklin can't leave because the other three are dead. They should get out of there, but they don't know that. They have for all they know, they're playing a trick on them, or they're lost or whatever, and they can't drive away without them. This one, it's a little different because Jessica Biel's character does sort of run back to the van, not really knowing a lot about the boyfriend or anything like that, but having an idea that something's not right in that house that they were just in. My first clue would have been pigs running around the living room.
Yeah, especially after he's like, we like to keep a nice house, so like.
Yeah, exactly. So wipe your feet, and then you go in there, and there's pigs running all over the place. I think that just leads to the comedy a little bit. I actually laughed a little when he said that. It's like, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's another thing that I know there's going to be a little bit of jumping back and forth between stuff, but one thing I do want to mention with the house and everything is that I feel like, again, I feel like the uphill struggle this film had facing towards it is the fact of trying to recreate the overall feelings of the first film and everything else like that. And so I feel like while on its own, the Hewitt house and everything, I need to start calling them Hewitts instead of Sawyers, get the correct last name going on, is that the house definitely looks unique with the cinder block look and everything else. And
cinder block pillars out front. I couldn't quite pinpoint what that architecture was.
Yeah, like doing stuff similar to that. Or again, I do like them actually having like pigs roaming around and everything else. Granted, they're known for barbecue, because I think in the first one, do we even see like any animals walking around for the most part, Dave?
We see a chicken in a cage.
Gotcha.
But I don't know that we see any animals walking around. There's like a lot of feathers on the ground,
and with all the bones and feathers.
Yes.
So I thought that was like again, just kind of good illusion to it to still get that creepiness factor and everything else like that. Man, holy hell, I'm going to be jumping all over the place whenever it comes to locations, characters. I'm just realizing. Go ahead.
I like the house, but I feel like it had that same charm as the first house. It's
a lot bigger.
It
It's a much,
is.
it's like a mansion
It's a
almost.
labyrinth, yeah, and it's yeah, it doesn't quite have the. I think what I really like about the first film that this one doesn't quite capture to me is how they just stumble into everything. It's these kids
Yeah.
that are on a completely different journey, and they stumble into the house, and then like Leatherface is caught off guard. He's like, "What the fuck?" And they're like. They're both equally shocked to run into each other. But yeah,
Yeah.
this one is a little bit more like they're lured into the house, and then it's this
Well,
weird dungeon,
and
and yeah,
in the first one, you got to know that house. I mean, you got to sort of know,
for sure.
okay, this room leads to that room, and okay, there's where they got the girl in the refrigerator, and this is the dining area. So, okay, you got to know the house because it was smaller, and it added to the movie. Okay, to know the space of where all this was going down, it added to the movie. You never get that in this one because it's such a big house.
Yeah, I also think there's a
They don't
payoff in the
explore it,
there's, in the first movie. There's a payoff because there's that awesome dinner scene. Like you see the
Yeah.
house, and then you're like get to kind of live in it for a second.
Well,
And
I
this one,
think
I don't think had the same quite result.
no, that's sort of the issue I had as well because when you think back on the first one, we're spending time with Sally and Franklin and the friends and everything. They have their run in with Leatherface, and then one, and then another, and then another, and then it just builds from there. So the first part of the movie of the original, we're with the victims, the eventual victims or the soon to be victims. In but the last third of that movie, it's the family. It's all the family. We're watching them interact. We're getting to know, like, okay, the hitchhiker is with the cook. They have like this sort of, they clash a little bit, and he's the one in charge, but he's an older brother to the other ones, and that great scene where he's in there and he's like confronting Leatherface, and he's like, "You didn't let none get away," and he's like, "No, no, 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 no." He's saying they're all here, they're all here, and he's like, "You didn't, you got them all." So he did the right thing, but you just see Jim Sedow's anger building. He goes, "You ruined the door." He wanted to hit him. You knew he wanted to hit him, just the way he was shaking. He's like, "I gotta hit this. I gotta get my anger out." He did everything right. What can I get angry about? In this one, you don't get that because even in the last act, we're with the victims, the remaining victims still. We're never really with the family. They are almost as if, whereas in the first movie, it works so well because they become the center of it all. In this one, they never get beyond supporting characters.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's really kind of interesting. I feel like it's almost like a trade-off, right? Where we spend a lot more time with the victims, and in all honesty, in my humble opinion, I felt like they were actually successful with making me care about these individuals way
no
more,
doubt.
which is
No doubt.
surprising because I've seen many attempt to try to build these characters up, and it ends up being a waste of time. Like, I just don't buy it. I don't care about them. And I'm like, where's the killers and everything else? And I feel like while you definitely get a lot of intimidating moments and everything else, I feel like the Hewitt family overall just lacks that same sort of bravado as the original Sawyer family, I would argue.
I agree because we don't really get to know them. And the thing is, what's funny is that they don't really tell you a lot about them, and there's more of them this time.
Yes, there's way more. Like, I would argue like nearly 3 times as many.
There's more, definitely more. It's like pretty much everybody they run into is a member of this family in that town. It's like they're the only ones in that town, I guess. But yes, so you don't really get to they have a quick interaction with one, then a quick interaction with another one. There's a scene where Jessica Biel wanders into that trailer, and the 2 women are in there, and the one there's no way I would have taken that damn tea.
No.
way I would have taken that damn tea. Well, sitting there, I mean, I said you're going to, and of course, what happened, and I had forgotten that scene, But what happened was exactly what I thought was going to happen
Mm-hmm.
when she drinks that tea. And because there's just something off about them. You know, she goes running in there screaming, holy hell, and they're just not getting upset. They're like, it's all right. It's okay. Just sit down and relax. And then she hears the baby and you get that. But again, then you don't really, even Arlie Ermy. And Arlie
Yes.
Ermy at this point in time is a he's a known commodity. He's an actor that a lot of people will know.
Mm-hmm.
Even and he gets probably the most scenes of anybody, fair enough, in the
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
But you still don't really get. And the part of the problem I think with that also is with Jim Seedow, the cook in the 1st one. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to go messing in that house. People don't like it when you mess around their property. They get upset. Oh, it's my granddaddy's. Oh, it's your granddaddy's, huh? Well, here, why don't you stick around here and have some bar? Like he's trying to dissuade them from going out there because he knows they could stumble on his place. The nightmare that is his house. In this one, though, that character is Arlie Ermy, and he's authority, and he's just a total prick. And so you're afraid of him for that. But it's different. It's not the same. He has power over them. The cook had no power over the victims initially.
Right. Yeah, I think
Arlie Ermy's character has power over them from the minute he pulls up.
Right. I think what makes the first movie so terrifying is that stumbling in aspect of like neither one of them wants the conflict, but then once they're there, it's like, well, you saw too much. You know?
Here we are. This is what we got to deal with, and then let's deal with it. Jim Seedow is a reluctant, I guess, aggressor in that he didn't want to do that. He was trying to avoid. It got to exactly what he was trying to avoid.
Yeah.
With Arlie Ermy, he takes control. He's too much of a prick to not be that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it doesn't really work, I think, with the dynamic of it. And I like Arlie Ermy. I think he's great. And I think he was good in this too. I liked that he tried getting into horror. He was also in Willard, the remake of Willard from 2003 with Crispin Glover. He played the boss in that one, which was Ernest Borgnine's role in the original one. And I liked him in that. I like Arlie Ermy, all the war movies. My God, he was in so many war movies, like Full Metal Jacket's the one that sort of put him on the map. But even going back to the late 70s with The Boys in Company C and those type of movies, he was somebody. By 2003, you knew who he was. You knew exactly who Arlie Ermy was, and him in this movie. They just don't give him enough. They don't give that character and that whole family enough to really make it. So they're changing things up, but they changed that part. That was something that they probably shouldn't have changed. We needed to spend a little more time with that family, and I think their dynamic needed to be a little bit different. Like, who was the old guy whose legs were missing? Who the hell was he? We get to find out who Leatherface's character, who he is, because now they've introduced a mother. Which was not in the first one. There's a little kid running around. Who the hell's kid is he?
Right.
Yeah, it is. I think you're right, Dave, and the fact that I feel like it's one of those things like it doesn't necessarily like destroy the film that they expanded the family members to the number that they did. But the problem is you have too many people, the characterization of them is going to die down. And again, because this film actively chose to kind of sort of humanize and sort of look at the victims more as interesting characters.
That's where it's spending its time, and it would have worked better if they gave the time to those characters. We feel nothing. We just don't feel anything when anything happens to them, And then there's a scene at the end when they're all together, and that was the reveal. It's like, oh, they're all part of this. That's great, but why the hell would they all be together? And why would they be together there instead of the house?
I feel like overall the only reason why they did it is that because they're trying to do an homage, right? So literally, like, you know, geez Louise, Jessica Biel going unconscious after drinking that tea and everything, and then waking up in a household is supposed to be similar to Jim Dow, you know, kidnapping Sally and bringing her back to the dinner table. And
that's it. But we don't get that scene of him bringing her back. That whole scene with Jim Dow, he's playing that like he's poking her with a stick while she's there in the bag, and she's like crying and screaming and trying to get out, and then you get the scene of him when he with Edwin Neal when he pulls up and there's the hitchhiker there and he's yelling at him, "You've been playing around that cemetery again, haven't you?" And then the whole, "Look what your brother did to the door," you know, there's all this stuff going on that we're learning the dynamics of the family. We don't know the dynamics of this family. We know a little bit. We don't know enough. We don't know we don't know how everybody fits in to the point that we even really care. Right. You know?
I'll go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like in the first, like in the original film, the difference between that one and this remake is that they stumble into a madhouse, and they have a lot of time of showing the madness, and then the families fighting each other. There's chickens everywhere. There's feathers. You know, there's bones. They do a great job of just showcasing. All right, they wandered into this madhouse where they did not belong. And then this one, it's like they're lured into a death trap, and that's somehow just like not as scary to me.
It's not. It just has a different now. Yeah. To be honest, if that's what they were going for, they succeeded. If they were more interested in those characters, obviously they were. They were more interested in the victims this time with Jessica Biel and Jonathan Tucker and everything. It worked. What they were going for worked. It just changes that aspect from the original that made the original as special as it was.
Yeah.
With that whole last act, you're like, how did we get here in this insane dinner party?
Right. Yeah.
With the guy who we thought was a corpse is actually alive, and they bring him downstairs to swing a hammer. What the hell is going on? You don't get that here. You just don't get it because we're following Jessica Biel. And it's not like it's not working, because I still was on the edge of my seat. Even with that extended chase scene that went into the meat packing plant, I thought, okay, it's handled to a point that I'm still into this movie, but it's not till it's over you're like, oh yeah, that's really not. They changed it. They just changed it. You know, most of the changes were good, or at least made it different and updated it nicely. Nah, I just didn't get the feeling from the family. And the problem is, then this will be just a little spoiler for a year from now.
Yeah,
it really undercuts that movie. Because now it's almost like if we were to get, think of if after Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, if Tobe Hooper followed it up with a prequel where we got to see the cook, the hitchhiker coming back from Vietnam or whatever, that like how Leatherface, if he had done a prequel, you'd been like, oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens with this family. We don't care enough about the family in this one to give a damn about a prequel about them.
That is totally fair. And I think one of the things that I actually really wanted to discuss is the fact that one of the biggest characters in the movie, and one of the biggest, the biggest icon in the film is Leatherface. And while I definitely feel like his actor, Andrew Bernardsky, I believe is how you say his name. I feel like he is he's perfectly cast and everything.
I think he did good. I think he did a good job as the character. I have no problem with his portrayal of him. I mean, by that point, Leatherface was not the Leatherface from the first movie. The Leatherface from the first movie was a meek, really afraid individual. Like, he was afraid of everything. Even the scene where he he knocks out what was it, Jerry, when he walks in after already taking care of Kirk and his girlfriend, and he gets Jerry, he runs to the window, he's looking out, he's all nervous, like, what's going on here? Where are these people? What's going on? Because he's not used to being the one in charge, and he now has to handle this. He's used to just following orders. And that's what his character was. He was a big sort of lumbering guy, but he was a simpleton, and he was not somebody who was used to taking control. That changed a little bit in the second, but not enough. They still kept that
Mm-hmm.
dynamic, I think. By the third movie, he's a little stronger. Forget
Mm-hmm.
the fourth one. Let's never happened.
I always keep forgetting he's even in the fourth one because he takes
Oh,
such a
it's
back seat.
just yeah. I mean, he really does. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, but in this one, he's more aggressive.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my
I
gosh.
think.
Like it is literally like Hulk fueled and everything else to where
Yeah.
like whenever he cut through that screen door exploded. That was not
Yeah.
just a mere cutting through a door. That
Right.
was Michael Bay level explosion.
Michael
Well,
Bay
yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
Michael Bay in it. You know?
Yes. Doing
That's the
that.
Michael Bay.
Um
He's not really looking for a characterization in the monster
mhm.
here that
Yeah.
we got in the first one. He's just okay. Let's just cut him loose and let him go after them.
Yeah, but the one thing I do have to criticize and everything else is obviously I'm always going to love the initial one and hold that to be the golden standard. While I think the acting was good and sort of personification was good, I didn't like how Leatherface looked. There was something about it and everything else, which I don't know if like his Leatherface is actually more true to how a Leatherface would be and everything. But
You
there was
mean
just
from the first one you didn't like his look?
Oh no. The first one, I love his look. It's
Oh, okay,
perfect. I'm talking
okay.
about
You're talking about
this
this
one.
Yes.
There's it almost looked like sort of Halloween mask as opposed to literally like
It was a little bit like a Leatherface cosplay. And stuff.
yes, like
A little bit, yeah. But at one point he puts on the face of the first victim.
I loved that scene.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. But then I said, when the hell did he change it, and why did he change it?
Yeah.
Does he like have a going out face? Does he have like a
yeah.
bingo night face? I mean,
Yeah.
why would he suddenly change back to the original one when he put that on?
Yeah,
It was
I don't
obviously
know.
he did that for a shock value for when Aaron, Jessica Biel's character, saw it.
Yeah.
That would be like the shock of it, but then it's gone.
Yeah, and so like that I didn't mind. I think it's just the fact of like his initial outfit, it didn't look quite as iconic, I guess, and everything, which is hard to beat the original, like
Right,
leather apron, you know, the bright yellow there, and the mask that's almost like just looks like almost jerky skin or something like that. Whereas this, it just looked a little too refined, like there was too perfect of like a snout, and the fact that he looked again like the Hulk almost and everything, which I think it works in some aspects because again you want him to be menacing and he's really strong and everything else, but there was just something about the look that I was like, I wish they would have gone through a little bit more redesigns to kind of make him pop out. Because, I mean, you look at other horror franchises that have had to kind of recreate iconic characters like the It franchise, you know, because you have the classic Tim Curry design. But whenever
Yes.
they redesigned it for Bill Skarsgård, I felt like it was different, but it still stood out on its own. And I just kind of wish they would have had something to it. Now, granted, I don't hate the design or anything else. I think it's just... I don't know what it is. Maybe feels a little bit uninspired, and also the fact that he's very like predatory and everything else. Like there's always constant lookups of him looking through holes and everything and hunting people down and everything else.
Yeah, and that's that's where the difference is. That is not what Leatherface was in the first movie. He was not the aggressor. He was not the one who was. He had to be told, "Hey, go get this person," or "Hey, do this or do that." You know, you get maybe a. I don't even know if they. No, I'm trying to think. I don't even know if they try that with Arlie Ermey's character. I'm not even sure if they do that with him and him sort of, because it seems as if, you know, Leatherface just takes off after her on his own.
Yeah, like it's definitely interesting because again, it's not like I felt like this film was like, no, we need to have the meek Leatherface, because in all honesty, Gunnar Hansen just killed it. There is no way you can convince me anybody else could do a better job than he did at that moment.
He was the one. He was the Leatherface.
Yeah, he was the Leatherface and everything. So I felt like having an aggressive sort of hulking monster and everything was not the problem. It's just more so whenever it thinks of like iconic and everything else, I just felt like there could have been a little bit more artistic liberties done to make him stand out a little bit and everything, because it's
I don't disagree.
Even muted design. Granted, I
even
don't
though
hate
he
it.
is, he's really there. He is the one there at the end, whereas the rest of the family's gone.
Oh yeah, no,
Because that whole final chase, that is extended. I mean, that I'm not sure. I didn't time it to see how long it lasted, but it lasted a while, and it wasn't just
Yes.
in that meatpacking plant. Again, they went out into the woods again. I mean, it was a lengthy pursuit, and I think that was the direction that they were taking it in, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I liked that they changed things up. Um, but I again, and I've already said it, it just undercuts the family, and the family is really what made that first one so special.
I think you're right, and the fact that I just feel like these are almost two different films, which, mind you, I definitely am happy the way they took this remake as opposed to trying to do beat for beat for the original, because I just feel like they I just rather have a new slate of characters that's not Sally Franklin or whatever with their own stuff and take different stuff. It's just by default there is that chance that you're always going to remember the original and where it stemmed from, and even though it's
Yeah.
kind of almost in all honesty, I don't think they even had to call it a remake per se. You literally could have just said like this is just a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre universe and everything, and it would be fine. They wouldn't be like, oh, this is basically the first story at all, because they
Right.
changed so much. So that's about the only like other thing I was going to mention. But other than that, like I said, I think you're right, Dave, in the fact that really the standout family member was, Arlie Emery and everything else. But that's
Yeah.
because he's a freaking terrific actor. He is
He's a
genuinely
he's a
good.
great actor,
Mhm.
but they're trying to make it. The minute I was suspecting is when he took the gun. He's like, where'd she have this? Oh, she had it on her. Oh, she did she? And it fit in the holster in his leg.
I didn't even
And
pick up on that.
you're kind of like, okay, I think I see where this is going. So,
Yeah.
he wasn't just putting it in his sock, it fit in his holster. At that point, they should have known, hey, we're screwed. This is his gun, you
Yeah.
know?
Which is funny, yeah, because I didn't even pick up on it either, so I don't even take it as like a sort of thing of like, oh, that's a giant red flag. Because if anything, you're like, okay, they're confiscating weapons, makes sense,
And
and
and the way
everything
and the
else
way
like that.
he is. I mean, all
Yeah.
this stuff is going on. There was a dead girl in there, and he's going to get on him for, oh, there's marijuana here.
Yes.
I
Oh my
mean,
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the comments that he's making, and the fact that he's like
yes,
just they don't have a body bag or anything. He's not calling it for backup.
exactly.
He's like just saran wrap her up,
Yes, for sure. Very,
Yeah.
very. And again, I think that's the one thing I will say that I don't know. I wouldn't say it like ruined the film, but it definitely took me out of it a little bit. Is that I felt like it was trying a little bit too hard to be creepy, whereas the first one, it still kept it within the realms of this is a little uncomfortable, but I don't feel like, it's like one of those things where as soon as you start seeing like the pit stop or whatever and you see all the flies over the barbecue and everything else like that, I felt like they were definitely trying a little too hard to be scary.
Flies. There
Whereas
were
the first
flies in
one,
the
yes,
there were flies in the display case.
yes.
yeah.
So
The
I
stuff that
think,
you're using to sell your product is
yeah.
covered with flies.
And so I think I just definitely preferred the first one where, again, like, sure, the hitchhiker was acting weird and everything else, but obviously you have no idea he's connected to the family till the end of the film. You figure, like,
Until the end of the film, right? And they
yeah,
thought they just got rid of him. And I love that line. It's the last goddamn hitchhiker I ever pick up. As soon
yes.
as I get him out of the van.
And then whenever you go to, like, Jim Seadow's, like, little, like, gas station area, like, there's really nothing that creepy where it's like, oh,
And it's
man,
not
this
connecting
is...
him to them.
Yes,
There's nothing
exactly.
connecting any of them to it. But the minute they walk into that restaurant, you're like, okay, this woman at least knows the family.
Yes,
If
you're
she's
like,
not
this
part
is...
of it, she at least knows. At the trailer with the two women, they at least know the family if they're not part of it.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
everybody knows everybody. This is almost more along the lines of something like House of a Thousand Corpses than it is along the lines of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where they're leaving all that up in the air, by design.
Yeah, and so I feel like, again, it's not a problem, but it definitely sort of detracts where, again, I feel like they try a little too hard with the horror as opposed to the first one where I felt like the horror kind of came naturally.
But in their defense, it does work. It
It does.
It is tense. It is creepy. Now, whereas I didn't really like what they did with the house, because the first house in the first movie is really something with the bones and the feathers and everything. When they get to the basement, they get that. You get that in this house. When they're in the basement, you see that sort of moist skeleton.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Little bit of meat still on it. You get the head of Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool News on a platter.
That's so funny. I knew it must have been like a reference or cameo to something, but I had
It was a
idea.
cameo by him. Yeah, I think he was credited as head on silver platter or something like that.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So when they get to the basement, you get that. But by that point, we already know the basement is a horror show because that's where the first killing happens. And even if you think about it, in the first movie, you get another scene with a hook here.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And it works just as well here as it did in the first movie without actually seeing, although in this one you see a little more with the hook sort of, and it was a guy hanging there. But you spend more time with him on the hook. After that girl's on the hook and she's struggling, that's it. I mean, after that, she's in the freezer. She's not, you don't see that. You're seeing more of this guy trying to get off the hook. Then Erin, the Jessica Biel character, has a moment with him when she sees him hanging there.
Yeah.
And so they're this is just more, this is like, okay, this is their story. This is almost like if the first movie followed Sally the whole way and there were more survivors with her.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily Franklin, because it wouldn't make sense for Franklin to be a survivor. He was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But if one of the other guys had survived and the two of them were together and they're trying to figure a way out of this, I think that's what they were. And if that's what they were going for, it worked. It did work because they made a good movie around the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and ultimately I liked the movie. I did. I liked the movie. It's just not the same because of the family. And again, that's why it just, when they get to the next movie where they're doing a prequel, I didn't give a damn. I really didn't give a damn. That's a little spoiler, but I haven't seen it in a long time. So when we do it next year, I'll rewatch it. But it's like, oh, here's how this guy lost his legs. Yeah, I don't care. I didn't care, and I didn't know enough about him from the first movie to give a damn what happened to him here.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the disappointing thing too, right, or whatever, because I felt like they did try actually adding a little bit more, like, to Leatherface as a character and everything, like whenever it shows him. I was surprised to see them remove the mask off at that one point and everything else, just kind of showing that. And
I didn't dislike that. I thought that was kind of interesting, because then you see, I mean, man, it's almost like the mask coming off in Phantom of the Opera from 1925. That scene where, it's almost what it was like. Except it was him removing the mask to sort of switch it up. I kind of like that. I think it's hard. I did ultimately, because I'm being very negative about it here. Ultimately, I'm coming in favorably on this movie. I am. And it's one of the ones that was a remake that showed me, hey, they can do different things and they can make the remakes, they can make them work. Just for the record, the one movie that's on my top 10 that I will never watch the remake, and I think they're doing another one now. At least it was in the planning stage. I don't know if it's ever gone forward. Maybe it's been scrapped. I don't know. But Poltergeist.
Oh.
The remake of Poltergeist completely missed the boat. Stand on the first one, because the first Poltergeist is very female centric. You have the bond between mother and daughter, and not that Craig T. Nelson's character didn't have his strengths, because he was a strong character as well, but it was about the mother seeking the little girl, the head researcher Beatrice Straight formed a strong bond with them. Then you had oh God, I can't remember the actress's name. Playing Tanzina, the psychic, the one who could.
Yes.
And that was a strong character. It was a very female centric. From what I understand, they changed the character for Beatrice Straight. It was a guy in this one, and they just completely missed the boat on anything that was good about the first one. They just almost went the other direction. And even with Sam Rockwell in it, who I like a lot. Sam Rockwell, I think, is a really good actor. I like any movie he's in. I'm willing to give a chance, except this one.
That's fair.
I just could not. It meant more to me than I thought, because it's not even in my top 5, the original Poltergeist. But I saw it in 1982 in the theater with my friends without knowing it was horror, because none of us at the time knew what the hell a poltergeist was.
Oh man. Well, good news is, I don't think Aaron and I will be watching the Poltergeist remake anytime soon at all.
No,
and even if we did, we'll leave you far from it.
Please, yes, no, I will not be on that one, because I won't watch it. That is one, just from what I've heard about it, and it's not even that. Just reading about it, just looking at the casting of it, they didn't get what was so great about the first movie, and so I'm not going anywhere near it.
Yeah. Well, I think you definitely have a lot of good merits and everything, and I know we're kind of getting to the point of trying not to spoil, like go into heavy deep dives and everything else like that, because I know typically we try to keep it relatively spoiler-free towards the first part of the review, then give our ratings to go into spoilers. So, Aaron, this is usually around the point I ask you, is there really anything non-spoiler likes, dislikes that you have to add about this film in particular?
I mean, I think we've gone over the important stuff for sure, front to back. So this is, I think I've voiced what I feel about.
Okay, yeah. I guess for me, like, there's just to kind of do bullet points about things I liked versus disliked and everything, is that I like the survivors, and who knows, maybe it's just because I absolutely thought that Jessica Biel as Erin was like the perfect sort of cast, and not so much replacement or whatever, since they're different characters, but was a perfect fill-in for sort of the Sally role and everything else. And even her outfit, which is different from Sally's, I felt like, I don't know, it was simplistic, but it worked for me. Sort of like the tank top, with the midriff cropped up, with the bell bottom and the boots or whatever. There's something about it, I'm like, I'm about this design. I like it. It's simple. It stands out.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that it was a white tank top and the whole half of the movie was just soaking wet?
No,
Yeah.
no, not for me anyway.
I was wondering the same thing.
No.
Let's see if we can figure out what you liked about that.
In all honesty, by the time the water starts pouring in, I'm just like more so like, okay, geez. This is a lot of water. That was one of the things.
Let me tell you something. When she was in the freezer where the meat was hanging,
yes,
let's just say you could tell it wasn't really that cold.
Yes, for sure. Granted, I was not trying to see how frigid the area was as much as it was.
Well, the camera was sort of right there. The camera,
yeah, for sure.
And you see the breath, but you don't see the real key clue that it's freezing cold in there in a wet t-shirt.
Well, it's all good. I mean, like I said, it even harkens back to the original, with that original ass shot with the house and everything.
Yes, right.
Aaron and I both recreated on our trip visiting the Sawyer household.
Nice.
Yep. So I did like that. Things that I didn't like are story choices they made. There's one story thread in particular that I felt like you could have removed this and it would have made the film a lot more tighter and everything else personally and everything. And we'll dive more into spoilers about that. But yeah, I agree with you, Dave. The family overall is just way too many members and we don't really care about enough of them. Like I said, even with Arlie Emery, like he's a great performance, but I don't care about his character. It's just him being a great actor and everything, which I feel like it hurts. And even Leatherface, which I felt like, in all honesty, I felt like the actor was genuine. I could tell he was doing his all to really bring Leatherface. And
I think he did a good job. He definitely did a good job.
But yeah, there's just a couple of things that just, I mean, there is no way in hell it was ever going to top the original, but
Well,
there is a
no.
couple of things that does weigh it a bit down for me. So, Dave, since you are the special guest here on the podcast, I'm going to give you the first, let you be the first one to give your number rating on a scale of 1 to 10 on where you would rate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Well, whereas the original is obviously a 10 out of 10 for me.
For sure.
I would still give this a 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the issues I had with the what they did with the family and making them supporting characters and not putting them front and center. I mean, even in the scene where Arlie Ermy is sort of front and center when they're at the van and he's doing that interrogation, you're more feeling for the kids than you are like really sort of getting into his performance, and that's different because you were getting into the performances in the original in that last part at the house and the everything going on. That's what you were into. In this one, it's just all about the victims and following them along and seeing what happens to them. And so yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I just don't, and I've gone into it. I don't have to rehash it. But yes, but ultimately I liked the movie. I did, and I thought that as an update in a way of the story, I thought it worked.
All right. Well, I think that's good thoughts and everything else. I definitely can't disagree with your rating there. I am curious, Aaron, what do you rate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake?
I'm coming in a little lower. I think this is like a 4 out of 10 for me, honestly. I think the whole point and charm of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, at least for me, is the family. And I think they kind of dropped the ball with this one. The family in the house. I just wasn't that scared or intimidated by them. I felt like they tried a little too hard to make it a little spooky whenever that kind of fell flat for me, when it was just scarier that they're like not normal, but like not they didn't come to this conclusion to kill these people, like in the original film. They kind of wandered in and it was like, well, here we are, like let's take care of these situations as they arise. This one, yeah, definitely. I think the film also just focused more on the dramatizing some of the characters and their backstories, the victims themselves, and then the emotional impact. I can think of a lot of the scenes in that basement in the dam where they're crying over the actions that they're taking and really reveling in that the terrible situation, which just kind of fell flat for me because I didn't give a fuck about any of those characters. So, I mean, totally respect a lot of the conversation and points that have been raised here. But for me personally, yeah, it was about a 4 out of 10.
Damn.
Excellent cinematography. I mean, I think a lot of the performance is really good too. Just sort of disconnected from each other, and the plot itself just seemed to service like go to this spooky location, now go to this spooky instead of like a natural like wandering into hell. But
yeah, I think that's totally fair and justified. It's one of those things that I could totally respect that number. With me, I'm definitely going a little bit higher than Aaron and everything else. So for me, it's one of those weird things where I don't know what it is about these typical horror remakes and everything else, because I know that I don't know. It's like even weird for me because I always compare it to see, am I going to hate a remake with how much I love the original? And that's why I was kind of surprised with Friday the 13th. I love the franchise so much that with the remake, I didn't rate it too high the first time round. Like I didn't rate it super low. I rated it somewhat middling and everything else. But on second rewatch, once I'm able to relax, there was things I was able to enjoy about it. And in that vein, I feel like kind of the same thing happens here with this film. Like obviously, I will always love the original film. I think that thing is a dadgum masterpiece and everything else, to say the least. But for me, the things that work out is that I actually care about the survivors. I care about them. Now, am I going to say like, oh, they are so fleshed out and everything else? Absolutely not. But there's enough stuff and there are small moments they give for each person that makes me genuinely feel like, wow, I like this world building, or I like the way they, again, just the fact they're kind of having this morality argument of what to do about a dead body,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to most people, they're like, whoa, a dead body, weird, huh, we better get out of here, or whatever. Like, they're genuinely like, what the hell do we do with this? And it's like, this isn't our responsibility, and if we turn it in, it's just going to be a problem. Just toss it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a ton and everything. Um, and like I mentioned, things I dislike, story choices, family, everything else like that. So keeping that all in mind for what I like versus disliked. One thing I will give major kudos to Aaron about, by the way, to make me appreciate this film more, is that towards the beginning of the podcast, he was hopeful on this film because it was produced by Michael Bay, who he felt like there was going to be a lot of good visual stuff. And I definitely felt like they took advantage of that, like lighting through the slit walls and everything, or again, just how everything was shot lighting wise, setting wise, everything. It definitely looked nice at a lot of parts. Like even with that factory you mentioned, Dave, I felt like that was like perfect framing, like literally perfect. I would not move it anywhere else. It was spot on perfect. So with all that said and done, for me, the remake, I honestly would place at a 7.5, go a little bit above where you're at. It's one of those things that it's almost tempting to bump it up to an 8, but there's just not enough gas to push it up. So if I had to choose like a solid digit, I'd be with you, Dave, and push it down to 7. But for me, there's just that little bit extra that I felt like was done with this remake, to where I'm like, you know what? I really appreciate the way you went about remaking this film. Like, you acknowledge what you could make homage to versus what will never be topped at all. Because even whenever it came to stuff like, Leatherface dance, or even seeing Semi, or anything else like that, that's homages, that's like, hey, that's like in the original film, I never felt like it was in your face like, hey, remember this from the original? Whoa. It just felt more natural. Like even the way Leatherface gets that injury to his leg and everything early on, I was
They
like,
changed that, and the fact that the first vehicle that sort of runs into her, like she sees, is that big is the truck, you know,
yeah.
Well, she
which
runs
they
into
had in the
that.
first one, but you get more of that. You get a little bit more of an interaction
Well, I like that
with that there.
in this film, yeah, she runs into that car, and you think you're gonna get that kind of moment again, where she runs into the pickup and then she's saved. But like this one is, yeah, she kind of runs, and the guy's just like, all right, and drives off, and then
Yeah,
the chase
He's
continues.
taking her back, and she grabs the wheel. Don't go back there. Which really harkens back to what happened with that girl they picked up. You're saying
yes.
you're going the wrong way, so I liked how they tied that little bit together. But when it comes to the characters, and I just wanted to say this, is that we know more about them than we knew about the characters in the original, because there is a scene,
Yes.
just a simple scene of one character in while he's being I guess sort of strung up,
Mhm.
um, a box with a ring hitting the ground, and I groaned. I
Yes.
was like, oh geez, because you knew exactly what that
Mhm.
was and where it was going to go. You never would have gotten that in the original, because we didn't know Jerry and
Yeah.
Sally's relationship. We knew nothing about their relationship in that first one, except that they were together.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought up that point, Dave, because that's one of the points I wanted to dive in and really tear into. So I'm just going to let folks know and everything. This is the part where gloves are off, spoilers of galore going to be happening, going on, and everything else. So if you don't want to be spoiled, definitely go watch the film. But that being said, I think you brought up a really good point and everything, because definitely, like, I felt like that was something they didn't have to include. It was
Right.
just something small, and again, it doesn't even pop up back later to where, Aaron finds the ring and everything else by his body and everything else, and he's like, oh, he was going to propose. No, that is just something that nobody will ever know, except the fact that Leatherface like looked at the ring and everything is probably adding it to his trinket collection.
Right. And Erin will never know.
Yeah, and I
You
think
know,
that's
she was the one sort of pushing for it, and he's like, "Oh, you'll get it, you'll get it, you'll get it."
mm-hmm.
And he was sort of, and then to see that happen, you're kind of like, "Oh man," it brings more weight to his demise
Yeah,
Yeah.
than
and I
any weight you got in the first one. except okay, we spent some time with these characters, and now they're being killed off. That brings a real dramatic weight to his death.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that. It definitely made the death feel more impactful as opposed to, as much as I like the characterizations, I do also thirst for the carnage of teenagers in Friday the 13th and stuff.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, yeah. But usually by the time you see it, it's just usually more so used to taunt the final survivor and everything else.
Right.
Whereas this one, again, just kind of alludes to the fact of like one final thing that this was his plan and everything. And I felt like they didn't even have to include that, but because they did, I felt like that honestly hit a little hard and everything. And I'm like, wow, that was a good moment. That was a good, well thought out moment, at least for me personally. I also thought it was interesting that basically his death was recreating the first kill you see from Leatherface in the original film and everything, with hitting him over the head with the hammer and dragging him behind the metal door.
Right.
Now, granted, that's the other thing again. The original film shot that scene perfectly, still sends chills down my spine every time I watch the original clip, as opposed to this one. I felt like they didn't even try to top it because
I think the issue here was it's as good as the cinematography was.
Mm-hmm.
This was edited like a 2000s movie where you get sometimes like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
boom,
right.
boom, boom, boom. Even in the chase scenes with everything going on, you still get that. It's still the fast paced editing. You didn't get that in the first one. All right, that wasn't there in the first one. So even that scene of dragging him with the door, it's cut like rapidly.
Yes.
So it doesn't quite have the same effect as the original did. Plus, the original, that sound effect, that
Oh,
boom,
yes.
that they added to that really worked in that one. But I still, and I think, well, that was another thing I did. I meant to bring that up earlier, was the editing in the movie. It's the 2000s, and it's that fast paced editing, and there are times where it is a distraction.
I can agree
You
with
know?
that. Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like there are some parts that are edited very well and everything, and they have some good transitions.
Oh
But for
yeah,
the most part, yeah, there's definitely a lot where it's definitely trying to cater to the style at the time.
yeah, and unfortunately, that's not that it's bad, not that it doesn't work sometimes. It's just there are times when it's cutting like that where it is a distraction.
Yeah, I definitely would agree in everything, which, I feel like on the one hand, yes, I think it's trying to remake it for modern audiences to follow and
Sure,
everything else.
sure.
I know even some people aren't able to watch older films due to how they're paced and everything. They just don't have the
Right.
time or patience, which is a shame because I feel
Yeah.
like, they're missing out on great stuff. But I agree with you in the fact that a lot of the artistry that could be there and everything is sort of mitigated just trying to make it more action paced and everything,
Yeah.
which I mean, even whenever it came to good lord, Andy with the tire iron whenever he sneaks back to the house to try to see if they can find Kemper, and he's like using it to block the chainsaw and you see the sparks flying out, like it was cool looking, but definitely felt more action paced as opposed to kind of
Yeah.
more of the helplessness.
That's what they were going. That's
Mm-hmm.
what they were going for there. There's no doubt. But what's really interesting this time, and that makes it different from the first one, the first victim in the original is Kirk,
Mm-hmm.
who was Jerry's and Sally's friend. And him and his girlfriend are out walking, and they stumble on the house. He's the first victim. In this one, it's the romantic. It's Aaron's boyfriend, who is
Yes.
the first victim, who we know quite a bit about.
Mm-hmm. I thought that
And I
was
thought that was an interesting little twist that, oh, they're taking him out first because it should have been the guy who went with her to try to see if he was in the house.
yes. I would agree with that. I definitely thought it was interesting to kind of take what you thought was going to, because it seemed like everybody kind of deferred to him on what to do and everything else. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's literally the driver of the vehicle, like the one that's kind of spearheading this
Yes.
expedition to the concert. So I feel like taking him out initially is kind of like a surprise. And I don't mind that and everything, because fortunately I
No,
still
I,
felt
I
like the characters were able to still hold up on their own
I
enough.
thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting change. Now, one thing that I call BS on, to be honest with you, is when she leaves and she can't find him, and she's like, "God damn him!" She thought he ran off. There's nothing about that character that would clue you in that he would do something like that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
She should have known, where is he? I gotta find him now.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that in anything that this guy has done to that point that would justify her thinking he ran back to the van and left her alone.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's just one of those things that, of course, they're just trying to do that just so she can have another person go back with her and everything else, just to be another body
Yeah,
for
but
Leatherface. But I
again,
agree.
that's something different from the first movie,
Yes,
because
for
you didn't
sure.
get that in the first movie. Nobody ever left that house.
No.
Anybody who walked into that house, they never left again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, like that was just
Other
it
than
done.
Sally, but she was dragged in. She didn't want
Yes, definitely a little bit different and everything, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. Aaron, I am dying to know and everything, because I feel like you've been holding your fist close to your chest, kind
No.
of ready to square away and everything. Is there anything really in particular that you're just like, this killed the movie for me, or
No, there's
anything
nothing,
else?
because
Yeah.
there's not like one thing that's like, oh, well, the movie's great, but it's this. I
Yeah.
think there's just a lot of little choices. Like, I hate that little kid character. I don't understand his motivation.
you could have dropped him and it wouldn't have changed anything. You didn't
Agree.
need
Right.
his character
I didn't,
in that movie at all.
I
You
didn't
really didn't.
get his relationship to the family, because it seems like he's part of the family, but then like they don't like him, and then he helps.
Well, he is. I mean, he's calling her grandma, or and that's the same character that Arlie Ermey's calling Ma,
Mm-hmm.
right.
or grandma. I don't know. He might be calling her grandma.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
100%
think I
sure.
think he says Ma. I think.
Yeah.
Ma, yeah, I think so. I think he calls her mom, and the other says grandma. Now, that little kid though is played by David Dorfman, who was Naomi Watts' son in The Ring, and I really liked
Oh,
him in that
that's
movie.
funny. I did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
realize that.
He's great. In
No,
the ring.
I didn't know it until I looked him up, and I was like, oh wow, he was the little kid from The Ring, and I liked him in that, and I don't dislike him in this. I think he's fine for the part he's given. It's just a useless, needless part.
Yeah,
That's
my
one
beef.
character you could have dropped, and the movie wouldn't have changed one bit.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with y'all with that and everything. I didn't really have a problem with him, but I just definitely felt like, again, he was. Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
thought he was going to end up being the girl who killed herself's brother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The only reason I figured he was related to the Hewitt family is, unfortunately, the clearly dentures he has, like with the
Yeah.
teeth
Right,
out
they
and
had to
everything
make him
else.
deformed, so you know he's a bad
Yeah,
guy. But
exactly.
he just has a weird role for me, because he's like comes off as sympathetic, but then it's obvious he's trapping them. Like he puts the little thing on the car horn to make them go look at the car.
It doesn't make
just
you
say
you
no.
have no idea
Mhm.
why he's helping them.
Right.
Why is he helping them? You have no idea. They give you none of the dynamic. And would a young kid really go against his family, to especially that family,
Right.
to
Yeah.
that degree,
When he's
for
already
no
obviously
apparent
involved.
reason?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It just felt a little weird. Yeah.
it was weird. Now you can kind of see it with the girl character in something like The Hills Have Eyes. You
Mm-hmm.
could see her motivations for maybe breaking away from the family and helping the other characters. I think they build that, but in this movie, we're not learning anything about this family. We don't know why he's helping them. It makes really no sense why a kid that young would be helping them. And then the last time he helps them, this way, come on, hurry up. Boom, he's gone. You never see him again.
Yeah, it definitely felt like sort of like he was only there to help show the exit out of like the basement. Like that's
Right.
purely
And
like,
and
the
you
only
they
reason.
could have found it on their own and it wouldn't have changed this movie one bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that does hurt it overall. My biggest beef that I have with the film is about the baby side plot.
Oh,
I felt like for
where she
me,
kidnaps the baby at the end.
yeah,
That didn't make any sense to me
I
either.
you could have left that out entirely and everything else, and I feel like the film would have just been tighter and everything.
Yeah,
Because
you don't. I don't know that you needed. Uh, well, I don't know that you needed those characters either. Those two women in that trailer. I don't
No.
know that you needed
no,
them either.
no, I felt like they were only there to basically get her back to the family. That is the only
Right.
reason
Mm-hmm.
why, and it just felt like a weird side plot because my biggest beef is the fact that that's what I loved about the original film is the fact that after that dinner scene, Sally's able to break free and just make a run for it and everything, and then she finds that truck and she escapes, and then boom, cut the credits, which I wouldn't say like I wanted that exact ending for this one, but I felt like genuinely anything about the kid, it just felt like it slowed it down. I didn't care about the kid. Like there
Right.
was
I didn't
nothing
either.
Yeah.
emotional investment in it.
I got
And
what they were trying to do, but I think it fell flat because like in the
yeah.
beginning they get punished for helping somebody, right? They help this hitchhiker and try to save her life, and then that's the reason why they end up in this mess to begin with.
Do you? I don't know. I didn't look into it, but I get the feeling the way that some of these characters are that there were things left on the cutting room floor that
Yeah.
might have defined them a little bit more.
I would believe you,
Especially
Dave. Yeah.
his character.
Mm-hmm.
Especially his character. I don't even know so much about the two women in the trailer park. I don't know that they would have gotten any more. But I think there was probably something left out about the kid because the movie's like an hour 38 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is at a time now they'll release a 2 hour and 30-minute horror movie and they won't think twice about it.
Right.
Yes.
But back then they're thinking, okay, this has to be tighter. They're still looking
Mm-hmm.
at show times, to get more show times in the day, or so we can't really make it over a certain length. Um, so they might have cut some of the kids' stuff out. But if that's the case, they probably should have just cut the kid out completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see the point of having him there because you don't know anything about the what we didn't know about the victims in the first movie. We don't know about the family in this one. We know
Yes.
nothing about their interrelationships. We know nothing about how they are related to each other. We pick all that up in the first movie just by listening to them talk.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really talks to each other in this movie. As far as the family goes,
Mm-hmm.
we
Right.
see we see a scene with the guy in the wheelchair and Erin and her boyfriend. Then we see Arlie Ermy with the kids at the van. Then we see the little kid with all of them. And then of course Leatherface coming in and out as he goes. We never ever get to see that family relating in any specific way that we could figure out anything about them.
Right.
Yeah, it was only towards like the end whenever, after Aaron is drugged and, Arlie Emery wakes her up and everything that you see him conversing that, or whenever the semi truck driver stops by and everything to check it.
Well,
That's
yeah,
the
but
only time you see him actually
you see them
converse.
together, but that was like the reveal is, hey, this is all part of that. They're all in the same
Yes.
family. We
Mm-hmm.
kind of figured that out already. We
Yes.
didn't really need that scene.
No.
And again, it explains nothing. How did okay, we kind of figure how the woman got the baby. That there were
Mm-hmm.
victims at some point and she took the baby. She wanted to have a child. But how does she relate to Arlie Ermy and the old woman and
Yeah.
the guy in the wheelchair and Leatherface? How are they all related? How are they all, what is the dynamic there?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just gone. And if there were scenes cut out, they should not have cut out scenes with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And they
Yeah.
could have tightened up the things, get rid of the kid with the victims, and they could have tightened some of that up. Don't cut stuff out with the family,
Mm-hmm.
and then decide, hey, we're going to do a prequel to show you what we're going to do a prequel to show you how these people you don't give a damn about got here.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. That's probably my biggest criticism that significantly weighs it down though, like I mentioned, is just really like with the family, like maybe instead of spending time focusing on a kid that I wasn't personally like that caring about and everything, because
We see him run up to
yeah.
a window at one point. Grandma, let me in. You can't come in here. No, and that's it. That's the
Yeah.
only relationship we see. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden he's in there anyway, helping him escape.
Yeah, and the baby, I just felt like it just weighed
Now,
it down. I would have rather
it
just
didn't.
it not been
Right.
And
part of the
and if
plot.
you think about that scene too,
Hmm.
with the baby's gone. Okay, you know who took the baby.
Yes.
You know that's not surprising. They try to show it like a reveal that the baby's in the car with her. We knew that. Come on. I mean, where the hell else was the baby going to go? And who would have taken the baby? We know what happened. It wasn't a big reveal to see the baby in the car. But think about that scene. She walks back in there and says, the baby's gone. All right. Now, knowing how protective she was of the baby at the house, and when confronted with it's not really your baby, how she got sort of the look on her face that this is like the most important thing to her. She goes, the baby's gone. Then you get that whole scene outside of Arlie Ermy climbing on the truck,
Mm,
looking for
yeah.
her hot wiring the car. That woman would have run out the door screaming, the baby's gone, the baby's gone. She would
Yes.
have just said it once and then you never see her again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
The
think that's
way that they were building up, that would at least have been true to that character.
yeah,
Mhm.
right. But these family members are all like siloed off. They characterize them individually, like she really cares
Yeah.
about the baby or whatever. But then as soon as it's time for them to interact in a scene, it's like, nope, only one character
No,
at a time.
they can't have her run out and with Arlie
Mhm.
Ermy, even though that they're part of the same family.
Right.
She can't do what you would expect her to do, or she doesn't do what you would expect her to do,
Yeah. Which is
because we're
weird.
focusing on him now. You know,
Mhm.
it just yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big fail.
Yeah.
The they just didn't handle. They didn't even want to handle it. It's like they didn't even care enough to
Mm,
handle it.
no.
Right. It's like a lot of the things that I have criticisms for, I feel like they just threw in as a plot device. Like the kid only exists to show that like actually you should save somebody at the end or whatever, like some
Yes.
sort of morality that like just doesn't matter because at that point
It and it
you just need to get the fuck
hey,
out of there, right?
exactly. And hey, if he's trying to do it before, this is the only time it actually worked.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You know, like, and at what there's a point where he screams, "Please don't kill her." It's okay. Why does he care about her? We don't even
Right.
see why he cares about her. We don't even get that moment.
Yeah, it's just weird decisions overall that I felt like the beginning, I think they had that idea of morality in place perfectly, but as the film went on, they really focused on trying to be a horror film, which again, definitely a good idea, but then as soon as they tried to sink in some morality back to it, it just didn't work. Now, mind you, there is some
But
scenes,
but
yeah.
what I thought was interesting is every bit of morality that they showed in this is the right thing to do, screws them.
Right. It
Yes.
fucks them over
It's
constantly.
the
Yeah.
reason they end up in the situation they are. They're
Right.
doing the right thing,
Right.
you know?
And
Hmm.
I don't even like the way that they present the morality because they present these options of like, should we just dump this suicide body out the window? And the correct answer in this case is yes, but like that's never the right answer
I
in real life.
I would have never even gone to that mill.
Right.
There's, oh,
Right.
meet the
Why the
sheriff
hell
at
are
the
you there?
mill.
Right.
What? I said, no, I'm sorry. We're dumping it off into the woods.
No, but they
We'll
had to
go
do
to
that.
we'll go to a payphone. We'll make a call. Here's where it is.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
we'll
We're
keep
out.
driving until we see civilization. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it.
Like, why do you
We're
go
out.
in the mill? It's just to show the spooky mill with the baby doll heads and where the kid is, or like, why the hell if you're meeting the sheriff?
And the scene with the
why would you
possum in the
go there?
closet,
Right.
with the opossum, looking out of the closet. Yeah.
Yeah, it just definitely kind of, yeah, I think that's definitely a good point of contention
I
there.
would have. I'm telling you, as much as and of course because horror film we know and you get an idea of what's going to happen in this movie. With Jessica Biel, no, we can't just dump her. It's somebody's child and everything. It's like, yes, but you are in. You've got you were just in a I guess a restaurant where there were flies in the display case.
Yeah.
You are in an area where you are clearly, this is a very sketchy area.
Yeah.
This girl just decides to shoot herself in your van. You were trying to help her, and she did this. Now all of a sudden she's your problem. I don't know. I just the way I was. I mean, again, it's coming from an area where you know what's going to happen in a horror movie.
Right.
But and with everything coming up, oh, the sheriff says meet him over here and just bring the body with you.
Right.
You know,
whenever you didn't talk to the sheriff on the phone, I'd be like, "Where's the sheriff's department? I will drive to the building." Like,
yeah. Why don't we go there? Why do I got to go to a sawmill and wait for him to show up?
Right. Yeah, and then when you get to the sawmill, why am I following a strange child that lives inside it, deep into the depths of like? And then be like, this is let's just keep waiting here. Like, no,
It's just everything. It's everything they do. You know, it's almost as if the moral of this story is don't have any morality.
Right.
Leave morality. Leave morality. You know, toss it out the window when someone shoots themselves in your van and you're in a strange place.
Right. If every person in this movie operated with like every man for themselves, fuck humanity.
They should have been listening. They should have been listening to Jonathan Tucker the whole way. I understand they made him out to be the jerk, but he was the only one who was telling them the right thing to do. Right. And then he's like, hey, can we just go? And when they couldn't find Eric Balfour's character, and then the other guy's like, no, I can't leave him behind. It's like, okay, well, there you go. I mean, this whole let's do the right thing. It's like, it's almost the moral of this movie is don't do the right thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I honestly can't. Yeah, I can't argue. I did like the morality thing, but ultimately, yeah, doing the right thing screwed him over.
Yeah, constantly.
Every single time. Jessica Biel is actually more of a villain and some of the other ones there because she's the one making them do all this stuff. No, we've got to call the police. We've got to, we got to keep her. We can't just leave her on the side of the road. We've got to keep her there. Oh no, look at the little kid. Oh, I'm worried about, all this stuff. It's just, she's,
yeah.
But again, that's her character. And in any other circumstance, she's telling them she's their conscience. She's their conscience. Yes. Here's what you should be doing. It's just they should have said, conscience, piss off.
It would make more sense to me if it would be a more consistent moral argument or argument at all if through the film is if at the end she saw that kid and she was like, fuck him, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
If she evolved as a character to be like, actually I need to take care of myself first, even though that'd be like kind of a shitty lesson for a movie. What is with what we've seen?
Anything you've seen in this town to this point that makes you think this is a place you should be sticking around in.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I'll just go to another town, get the police, and they can rescue them.
Exactly. Let's take her to the next town over. Yeah. First off, she was running from something in this town to the point it caused her to shoot herself in the head in front of total strangers. Right.
With the last
or open her mouth
saying,
and put a gun in,
Right, is that they're gonna kill you all. And it's obvious she's been a victim of some terrible violence, just
right.
A cursory glance at her. So to just ignore all of that and be like, well, let's go to
right.
spooky
well, boy, she's really afraid of something in this town. Let's see if we can find someone to help us here.
Let's go to the most isolated part of this town to find some help.
Right.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to that, so I'm going to jump over to this one thing I do want to talk about more so with the kills. Yeah. I'm curious as to whether the film's kills and violence, you mentioned this, Dave, like kind of whenever they take the character Andy and they place him on the hook and everything, it's shot similarly to the original, and there's a lot of scenes where for the most part, they do have some scenes where they show some gore, like whenever they cut off Andy's leg in the field and you see the blood splatter on the sheet, and then you see...
And even the girl shooting herself.
Yeah,
and the girl shooting herself at the very beginning of the movie,
But then there's other scenes, like whenever Leatherface appears to try to kill both Aaron and Pepper and everything. And Pepper's running away, and she has like a little feather jacket on. And whenever you see Leatherface kill her, I thought it was kind of unique to kind of just see feathers flying as opposed to actual like blood splattering.
That because you didn't need to see that at that point. You know what's happening. All right, she's being hit with a chainsaw. You don't, you know, I liked the fact that they showed it sometimes. They didn't show it all the times. Now, there's one scene in particular, and I didn't look it up, but I have a strong suspicion that it was the MPAA that made them cut it because I think there was more to it. And it's the scene because it's later in the movie, and that's when you start to see gore ramp up normally in these kind of films. The scene with Jonathan Tucker's character, where he's sort of hanging, he's got the cuffs on, and I'm telling you, Leatherface probably cut him in half. That's what you see it start. Then it cuts to another angle. Then it cuts back to him. And there's a scene where Leatherface is sort of blocking his body. The minute he goes to move, they cut away. I guarantee you there was, well, I can't guarantee. I have a strong feeling there was more to that scene, that we saw him in half. We saw his body in half hanging there. And the MPA said, beep, time out. Nope, you get an X if you put that in there. So they had to tightened that one up.
I can see that. I thought we were going to get a Terrifier moment. Like, like just bisecting down the crowd.
And I think that's how it was shot, to be that moment. It's just the MPAA said, okay, look, we've let this go. We've let that go. We're not letting this go. You can't show that or you get an X rating.
Which is funny because,
or NC-17 it was then, I guess.
It's difficult to know whether it was a conscientious choice, keeping in the vein of Tobe Hooper trying to get a PG rating on the original film, or if it's truly like MPA being like, you can't do that. You just cannot show a man getting cut in half like that. So.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's almost like that was almost like the moment from Scarface. From 1983 in the shower, you know? And they didn't even show really a lot of it there. It was just the idea of it and the blood flying and things like that they were objecting to. You never actually saw anybody, at least that I remember, actually cut in half, but there was enough of it there. The MPAA said you're going to get an X with this, with that. I think that, you know, that the way that it's edited, there was more, and they were setting it up to show it, and they did show it, and I'm fairly certain they were told you got to cut that out.
You're probably right. Also, focusing on that scene real quick, I wanted to mention one thing that I really did appreciate is the fact that scene in particular, both of the characters, Morgan and Aaron, decide to fight Leatherface in that moment, because basically Aaron's being caught out by Leatherface, and then Morgan comes in trying to save her by running out and beating Leatherface up. And then as soon as Leatherface turns his attention to Morgan, now Aaron just tries to do something. Now granted, they are both ineffective highly to do anything, but at least they gave a good college try in trying to do something, which is nice, because typically, even in the first one, I'd say, granted, a lot of the kills were isolated. Anytime there was something, most of the time they just were caught off guard, scared, or they just
that's exactly it.
Running.
Leatherface, none of them had a chance to react. Because by the time Leatherface is right on top of them, and they're pretty much gone before they even realize what the hell's happening. Nobody fights Leatherface in the first one. Sally's running the whole time. There's never a scene where she's like taking the fight to him. So I didn't dislike that about this movie. I thought, you know what, that's more of a reaction, and that somebody who has been, especially the chase and what she has been going through, at some point you're going to say, look, I'm going to have, and that's when she grabs that, the cleaver.
Yes. Yeah. I
and decides, okay, I'm going to use it here. I'm going to use it. And now, I thought it was interesting. Now, how the hell did the pig get in the locker?
Yeah, that definitely, I was like, you need some major sleight of hand to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get the feeling Aaron put the pig in the locker as a distraction. So how the hell did the pig get in the locker?
Yeah, that's a
That was
thing,
just
right?
that was
Yeah.
the filmmaker saying, okay, everyone is going to think this is the locker she's in, and then he
Yeah.
opens it up and there's a pig in there for no apparent reason. The pig certainly couldn't jiggle the lock on that locker and get let itself in.
And it didn't make any noise until he opened it up and
It didn't
revealed
make
the
any
thing.
noise till it didn't make any noise until she was getting ready to, and
Right,
she
right.
called him. I think didn't she call him at one point to bring him back there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to because she wanted to attack. So they're setting it up that, oh, it's this locker, it's this locker. Oh no, it's not this locker. There's a pig in there. How? We don't know. There's
Right.
just a pig in there. And it happens
Yeah.
to be the one directly in front of where she is.
Yeah.
Unless there's a scene that they cut where she let the pig in the locker. In that case, I'm glad they cut it because that would have been idiotic.
Yeah, it's that whole meat packing plant scene. I have mixed feelings on. I felt like it was shot well and everything else, but the actual just logic of like again going in there and everything else and then her trying to navigate through there and then the locker thing and her having enough strength to be able to cleave off Leatherface's arm and he just doesn't react at all and
She had to
everything.
get a few
Right.
chops in there. Yeah.
Like it was just like I felt like it definitely slowed down a little bit for
It,
me.
it did a little bit, and you're not really sure how she was able to sort of navigate her way through there.
Yeah, that's
and
another
and
thing.
and then they know where she needed to be, and I don't know it. It was tense. The way it was shot, it
Yeah.
was tense. The way Jessica Biel did a great job with it. Again, I like the guy who played Leatherface. I thought he did a great job with it. So there's a tension there, and you are on the edge of your seat. It's just when you stop to think about it, you're like, okay, there's
Yeah.
I don't know. She'd never been in there before. How did
Right.
she? How was she able to sort of figure all this out as quickly as she did under those circumstances?
Mhm. Yeah, it just I think it was like a cool idea on paper they had and it was just executed half and half, I'd say.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a way you can make a lot of it make sense. I think if she like walked through a room where there's just a bunch of pigs out, like in the house or whatever, and is like, they shouldn't be here, and then she runs through the lockers and then come back, then you could kind of buy like, oh, okay, maybe like she managed to lure a pig into a locker or something. But
Right.
just as it was shot, they don't give you any hints or any breadcrumbs to lead you. It's just like, oh, it's just kind of
Right.
it's a cheap. I don't know. It's not jump scare. It's like a jump gag. It's
It
like,
just-
here's a pig in a
Yeah.
locker, and then
Yeah, it just
Right.
feels like we couldn't have guessed it as an audience on what's making that
right.
racket.
Right.
Like it just yeah, I don't know. It definitely could have been a lot more it could have been reworked and everything. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Mhm.
One death scene that I did want to kind of get to that I did really kind of find interesting, Aaron might find this lame and everything, and I would not blame him at all, this is like a personal me thing, is whenever Aaron is thrown into the basement after the family captures her or whatever, and she runs into Andy hanging there who is still alive,
yeah.
bleeding out and everything, and
She has to kill him.
yeah, has to kill him because she's not strong enough to lift him up. That piano is the only
Sure.
thing awkward there.
Yeah.
And he's just like, kill me, and again sort of dives into that sense of morality of like, well, there might be a chance I could save you, but do I just kill you now or whatever? I felt like that was a strong choice. Now granted, if anyone said, oh, I thought that scene was lame, I'd be like, that's fair. That's fair, but I just personally
No,
like the
I-
idea they were going with there.
It's funny because it's sort of against her character
Right.
to do that, but she does it for him. Does it in the worst possible way.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
That was not that, and the fact that he died immediately, I call bullshit because that would
there's
not have killed
no
him
way.
immediately.
No way, no how. Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. Yeah,
You stab him in the heart, okay. You stabbed him in the gut.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. At that point, I think he would just pretend to be dead, just not to.
Yeah, just exactly. It's like, please don't. Okay, that didn't work. Don't hit me again. I'm
Yeah.
already dead. Just let me bleed out now, and I'll just sit here and suffer a little bit more.
Yes, it's like, I'm not going to let you take another stab at it. I'm sorry. Just
Right,
I'm just
yeah.
gonna die here. But yeah, and I will say this towards like the end, baby aside, because obviously I've made it known that I think that's the worst aspect of the film for me is the fact that it just weighs down. There's doesn't feel any feeling. Even if I get the idea of what they're going with, I still don't like. How about the fact of how she takes out Arlie Ermy and everything, running over him repeatedly.
I did like that because that was true to what she had been through and what that guy had put them through. That was at least that was a true emotion from her to do that and say, screw you, boom. You know what? I'm going back, boom, and I'm going to hit you again.
Yes.
I like that for that reason.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I feel that way, but the only thing that kind of soils it a little bit for me is that whole ass family is in the house apparently.
Yeah,
and none of them come out. None of them. Yeah,
come out.
it's not even the house. Isn't that the
barbecue place?
Yeah.
the barbecue that
They're
the woman runs? Yeah,
right.
they're all in there,
Just looking
and none
out
of
the
them.
window, like watching this.
Again,
what
it's
are they doing?
we're not really allowed to see them together. Only in brief spurts can we see them together. It's like, what are they doing while this is happening outside?
What's
Are they
the
running
trucker
through
doing?
looking for the baby, thinking it
I
crawled
don't
out of the
know.
high chair and is hiding?
Right,
I mean, what are they doing?
Exactly, and as far as the trucker knows, this woman is incoherent and struggling, and she just ran over the sheriff with his own car. Like, but like, he's
And you know
not
what?
there. Like nobody else is in that scene.
We
so-
don't even see the truck driver. Maybe he's helping him look for the kid inside. We don't know what's going on with any of them. Arlie Ermey's out there by himself.
Yeah, getting.
And when he, like you say, when he was run over the first time, you'd think they would run out.
Right.
No, he gets run over, he gets backed
up.
over, he gets run over, backed over, run over again, and nobody comes out. Right. The only thing they get is a little bit down the road, you get Leatherface running out.
Yeah,
with the chainsaw.
Yeah, which in all honesty, like if I was rewriting the end of the movie and everything else, I think it just would have been a lot tighter if, it cuts to her going to the semi-truck, says, hey, get me the hell out of here, and he sees her freaking out and pulls over to barbecue place. She freaks out and obviously they catch whim. Oh, girl acting crazy? I think I know who it is. They start walking out, and then that's her hot wiring the cop car, run over him, and then head out. I think that just would have been a lot tighter of an ending.
It probably would have. I mean, I knew it wasn't over yet because when she got in the truck, I'm like, oh boy, is the movie over? Wait, nope. Still has another 12 minutes. Okay, let's see where this goes.
But I did like that kind of like last minute like aha moment of Leatherface, because it was a little anticlimactic seeing him kind of bleed out in the factory hallway.
You knew he wasn't going to be dead. Now, if I had an issue, it's when John Larroquette comes up. The crime scene was not properly secured. Not properly secured. It seems like he didn't do shit.
Right. Yeah, they were just like, well,
because we missed the behemoth in the corner.
Yeah, we didn't make any arrests. We just walked into this house and then walked into the creepy basement.
We're doing like to say not properly secured. It's like is every cop either a psycho or completely incompetent in this area? I mean.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it just definitely, and I do like towards the end whenever Aaron's driving away and everything, and Leatherface takes a slash at the car. He kind of does almost like the chainsaw dance, similar to
but not overdoing it. Like they didn't make it. It's not like it's much more subtle. I mean, when you think about like his chainsaw dance, even at the end of Texas Chainsaw 2 with Caroline Williams, she's doing the dance.
Yes.
And swinging the chainsaw. This is just like his version of it, but it's much more subtle. It's a little more believable than if he did the dance that Leatherface was doing at the end of the first one.
Yes, for sure. And he only has one arm too, which is why he would dance the way he did. And I felt like they did the appropriate homage to it. They don't overdo it. They're like, hey, there's a dance, moving on.
Right. And as little as it made sense that she cut off his arm,
Yeah.
I do kind of like that he was swinging the chainsaw with the arm on it against the wall to try to get his arm off of the
Yes.
chainsaw so that he could
And it's like
use it
spinning
with
on
his
the
other
floor.
arm. I
That
thought
was
that was kind of
so
cool.
that was so funny to watch. I am so glad they chose to go that route and show the practical effect of spinning around, and I was like, that's just funny
That was a good
and
moment.
everything. So yeah, and then like I said, with the police footage, I got the idea of what they were going with, but you're right, Dave. Those cops are stupid as hell,
Yeah,
And like
walking in
they're
to an
walking in
unsecured
there, they're
premises.
like, "Oh, here we are. You know, see the nails here." Um, and at first, you don't know what crime it is they're researching. Are they researching the Franklin Sally crime?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, because then we see when they're taking the one guy down in the basement, his nail breaks off and he's scratching the wall. It's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay, so they're investigating this.
Mm-hmm.
The other one never happened. So
Yes.
this is like it's not in the at the start of the movie we're like, okay, you know, we don't know what direction it's going yet. But that was the
Yeah.
clue. It's like, okay, there is no other crime. This is the start of it, at least as far as what will launch the investigation. It's not the first one. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
with the abandoned vehicles there, they've killed others, and the fact that the one girl who shoots herself was one of their victims,
Right.
Yeah.
and the baby and
The
everything. So it
baby.
leads you
Yep.
to believe they've done this, you know, multiple times.
Which is what makes it insane to me when they say it's a cold case.
Yeah, right.
They say that
Yeah,
twice. They're like, we're just recently resurfacing. I'm like, you guys didn't have enough evidence, like between the
right.
two
Yeah.
cops that were murdered there too. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Maybe they are the most incompetent police
God.
department.
Yeah. Well, the cops in that area, Arlie Ermy is the cop.
Well, yeah,
So,
he's the sheriff. Yeah, yeah,
he's
but
the
that,
sheriff, so nothing's getting investigated in that area.
right. But they specifically said it was the county. Or there's the police department that was in. Those were the two guys, so they weren't connected to
Yes.
the sheriff's office.
Yes,
So
right.
that was a completely separate group of also incompetent.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, aside from that, guys, any other last points you want to bring up about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake at all whatsoever? Dave, how about you?
No, like I said, we're sitting here, we're sort of picking it apart and like
Yeah.
and everything, but ultimately, I stick with my 7 out of 10. I did enjoy watching it. I think there are some the performances especially, and I think pretty
Mm-hmm.
much across the board, I didn't see anybody giving a bad performance. To
I
be honest,
don't
I
believe
thought
so either.
everybody was good in
Mm-hmm.
the movie,
Yeah.
and they were able to do it. You know, I think it was a conscious choice not to have a Franklin character.
Yeah, for the
Good.
best.
Jonathan
Yeah.
Tucker was maybe filling that,
Mm-hmm.
but he was like he was really the voice of reason.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that, but I really did as much as the family was a disappointment. Those characters enough made it worth watching. The young people that whereas in the first one it's all about the family. In this one the victims are what made it worth watching, and I never lost interest. And I was rooting for them. Not that I ever rooted against Sally or the other ones, but the
Mm-hmm.
problem is the other ones, 3 out of 5 of them were dead before they knew what hit them. So it's not
Yes.
like we ever had a chance to root for them. Or
Mm-mm.
two
Right.
out of five. The one girl was put on a hook, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but she
Yes.
pretty much didn't have a chance. The two guys, they turned around, boom, they're hit on the head and they're done. I mean, so that was that. And the two people who could have had any chance of going up against Leatherface didn't even know he was there until it was way too late.
Right.
In this one, though, it's a little bit different. There are, you know, you do see them challenging. There are more survivors, and I did like that aspect of it. They decided to go in that direction, and I thought that part of it worked. You just didn't make us care about you, not even care. You didn't even make us have pique our interest in the family, not care.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to say, you know, as much as everything had happened in the first movie, it's not like I cared about the hitchhiker or I cared about Jim Cedow. I just was fascinated by them. You
Mm-hmm.
Right.
know, they were
Yeah.
fascinating characters. And I wanted to know more about them. that just wasn't the case here. I was almost like, I don't even care about this one, don't care about that one. The guy in the wheelchair, what the hell's that all about?
Yeah.
It just, it did not, they didn't pique my interest like the first one did, like the original movie did.
Yeah, that is totally fair, Dave. I think you said it eloquently there and everything. Aaron, any closing thoughts for this film at all whatsoever?
I don't think so. I guess I'll just say the last thing is mentioning Jim Cedo again. I think it is funny how they kind of diced his character up into 5 different characters in this movie.
I guess that is true.
They really did. Yeah, they really did, because there really was no hitchhiker.
Right.
There was no character like that unless it was the guy in the chair, but he was way too old. And I mean, the scene where he says, "Can you help me?" and Jessica Biel goes in there and he's like emptying his piss bag into the into the
Yes.
toilet.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like, you really? No, I'm not going to help you. I'm sorry. I think you've got this. I'm sure you've done it before. I'll just wait out here.
Yeah.
But so you're right. They really did kind of. I don't know what. I guess they did. His character would have been Arlie Ermy.
Right.
That's
'cause
what it was supposed to be, but it never was.
Yeah, yeah. But somehow they split him into the guy in the wheelchair, Early Ermy, the old lady that ran the barbecue shop.
Yeah,
and the 2 ladies in the trailer that like was initially who the Sally type
Right.
character runs, and
The-
then gets pushed back into the fold. All
And
of
there
them were
was-
Jim Cedo in the first movie.
There was no grandpa.
Right.
There was no hitchhiker. The cook was cut up into all these other characters, and then Leatherface, who was, that's the only one that sort of carried over from that
Right,
original
that's more
movie.
consistent. But yeah. But yeah, overall, I mean, I didn't enjoy the movie. I thought there's certainly things to take away from it. But yeah, I'm sticking with my 4 out of 10. It was a slightly below average experience for me.
For sure. Understandable. Yeah. And as for me, I mean, I feel like both y'all said basically everything that I would have. Again, I will always respect the way they tackled these sort of slasher remakes. And it is funny because my overall thoughts on some of the slasher remakes they've done is there hasn't really been one that I know of that I've detested per se. I know that
Right.
Gilman Joel hates the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, which I'm
Yes.
always surprised by and everything, needless to say.
I'm not quite there with him. I know he really despises it. I think Jay likes it more than I do. I don't really dislike it, and part of it is because I think Jackie Earle Haley did as good a job as can be expected in that part.
Yes, for
You know,
sure.
and it's not like in the original one, Freddie might have had like a few jokes that he cracked. You know, Robert Englund might have cracked a few jokes, but he wasn't the jokey character he would become in the later sequels.
No, definitely not.
You know, he
So,
was still a pretty menacing, pretty scary guy. And I think Jackie Earle Haley, that I'll tell you what, that scene at the beginning, this is going way off topic now, but the scene at the beginning of that remake where he's got the guy and the guy is dead and he's like, but the brain can live on for another, you know, because there's oxygen in the brain, can live on for another 6 to 7 minutes. So we got some more fun.
oh, jeez.
I mean, that's cold shit. That's like as cold as it gets.
Yeah. But you know, that's just another story for another day. I'd be curious on if you guys ever, you know, talked about it and just hearing more thoughts about it. But
We did cover it, yeah. And I understand. I can understand people being really against it. It's not one of my favorite remakes, if I'm being honest. But I don't think I don't hate it either. I don't like really despise it. I can't say I despise the Poltergeist because I've never seen it and I never will.
yes,
But I
but
just-
it's safe to assume.
It's
probably.
everything I hear and even like I said, just looking at the casting and who they replaced yeah, I'm just like, yeah, no, thank you.
I don't blame you. So yeah, at the very end of the day, I'm glad this one is a decent remake, although it will never ever top the original, and I think the filmmakers knew that.
And I don't think, and the good thing was, I don't think they were trying to top the original.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
clearly loved the original,
Mm-hmm.
but, and it's not even like they said, hey, let's change this because the original did it wrong. No, they
Yes.
were just like, hey, let's try something different here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a cause worth celebrating for. So, one thing I'm going to do here real quick is break out some Malibu here because I know coconut rum is typically your choice of drink
Yes.
whenever you take a shot
Yep.
here on.
And
So,
Malibu's the good way to go. That I'm even off that Admiral Nelson stuff. It's
yeah.
way too sugary.
Yes, for sure. I always like a nice bit of bite to my shot as well as a bit of
Yeah.
sweetness and everything.
Yeah.
So, this shot here goes out to you, Dave. Thank you
you.
for being here and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Give a little dink, and then this goes for the podcast. Just another year and everything.
Yep.
Mm.
Woo!
Malibu's a good one. Malibu is a good
Goes
one.
down smooth.
Yeah.
It's super smooth, just like that
Yeah.
Jim Beam honey and everything. So
Yes, Greg's Jim Beam and honey with a Werther's in his mouth. too.
yes, absolutely. So before you get to your recommendation, Dave, one thing I want to do, which
Mhm.
I had to do in post edit because I forgot to last time, given we were running out of time. To the audience listening and everything, go ahead and just kind of tag yourself, let them know where they can find you and everything else, or if there's anything you want to promote. Like the floor is all yours right now, Dave.
All right, thank you. I'm on my blog, dvdinfatuation.com. I had set out to review 2,500 movies. I actually posted review number 3,000.
Wow.
And that's where I'm sitting right now. And I'm actually just taking some time off. I have other reviews written. I don't know if I'm going to post any more this year, though. I might just wait till next year and let it sit at 3,000 for a while.
That's fair. It's a big old number.
Yeah, it is. And that's dvdinfatuation.com. I'm on Facebook, and there's a Land of the Creeps Facebook group. It's a great group of people, very supportive. Love discussing horror. A lot of people are there, and it's a great group. So if you get a chance, join the Land of the Creeps group on Facebook. You do have to contact Pearl or Greg and let them know, hey, I'd like to join the group because they have been getting a lot of spam and things. So they do have to sort
Yeah.
of, they do have to, oh, what's the word I'm trying to screen it? They have to screen the people, but
Yes.
it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it, and they never turn anybody down. They just want to make sure you're not a troll or a bot
Yes.
or something like that, Um, and that's on Facebook. Other podcasts, I have a few on Considering the Cinema, which is Jay's main feed, Jay of the Dead's main feed. Well, Jason Piles. Jay of the Dead is more for his horror moniker. We discuss other movies. Like I have the DVD Infatuation podcast, where I talk about any genre. I have guests on, and we have lists, and we have a musical segment where we talk about music in the movies, and also the weekly watch list, which we've been doing for a while now, and that's Jay, Mac, Robbins, and myself get together and discuss what we've been watching, and again, any genre, just whatever we happen to be watching at that point. And both the DVD Infatuation podcast and the weekly watch list are on Considering the Cinema, which I think can be found at consideringthecinema.com. Land of the Creeps podcast you can find at landofthecreeps.blogspot.com. We are well up into the 400s,
That's
over
crazy
four,
to think about.
or at least closing in on 450 episodes. I've been on that one since I want to say 2012. I think
That's so
I've been doing that
crazy.
podcast since then, maybe 2013. But yeah, and I think I joined like around episode 17 or something, and we're up into like 450 now. And of course, Jay of the Dead's new horror movies, where Jay and myself and Greg Amortis and Gilman Joel and Mr. Watson. See, now I got to name them all. Damn it. Uh, Dave Z, Ron Martin, Kyle Bishop, Dr. Walking Dead, Count Macula, and well, it's Jay, of course, because it's Jay of the Dead's podcast. He's the host, and a 10th host is actually Spawn of the Dead. Jay's son
Oh, nice.
has joined the podcast officially as well. As a matter of fact, he was just added to our text chain.
Oh,
So we're all
nice.
sort of having to clean up our act a little bit
Yeah,
on the
understandable.
texts. At least I'm looking at it that way. I don't know that everybody is, but I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure being
And
a dad definitely
so
builds perspective.
yes. So just look up, I'm not 100% sure of the website, but it's on any of your podcast feeds. Just look for Jay of the Dead's No Horror Movies and subscribe.
All right.
And that's pretty much it.
Well, awesome. I'm glad you got to let us know everything that's going on and everything else. Like I said, I made sure to make it a vigilant point of like this podcast does not end till you plug yourself and everything there.
Well,
So
thank you.
yeah,
I
of
appreciate
course.
that.
Well, and starting to wrap things up and everything, Dave, why don't you go ahead and throw us that recommendation for Aaron and I to watch next on our podcast?
All right. I'm trying to find one that you haven't seen. And this was one from last year. I don't know how up you are on all of the movies from 2024.
Oh,
But
okay.
this is one that I was really impressed with. It's not my number one, but it was my number two movie
Oh,
of
wow.
last year. Have you seen Heretic
I have not. You're talking about with oh my
with
gosh.
Hugh Grant?
Yes, Hugh Grant. Yes.
Yes.
I only heard remnants about it, but that was about it and everything. So
I would recommend. That's the one I would recommend to check out. Is Heretic,
okay, awesome. Well,
especially with Hugh Grant in that role. I mean,
yeah.
you think of Hugh Grant. I mean, it's not his first horror movie. He was in. Oh God, what was the one? The Ken Russell one. Oh boy, from the 80s. Oh, now it's driving me crazy. Lair of the White Worm. He was
Oh,
in Lair of
okay.
the White Worm. But that was early in his career. Ever since then, it's been romantic comedies for Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
But I think he should have been nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in that movie, in
Wow.
The Heretic. He's that good. No, because Demi Moore was nominated for The Substance, and
Mm-hmm.
rightly so, because I
Yes.
think she was great in The Substance. Hugh Grant should have been nominated for Heretic also last year.
Okay, well, I'm super glad you recommended it because, like I said, I see these new horror films and I'll hear a little bit of buzz about it, but in all honesty,
Mhm.
I never heard too many people talk about Heretic, and obviously, you're as Greg calls it, the encyclopedia of horror and movie knowledge of the sort and everything. So I know your stuff. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah, looking forward.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that being said, thank you for being here, Dave,
Yeah,
with
thanks,
us.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate you taking time with us. And thank you all
Absolutely.
so much for listening to this episode. We'll see y'all again next time when we're popping the scary with The Heretic.
All right, and I'll see you next year.
Yeah, absolutely. See you next year, dude.
All right.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. To see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @ColkirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're popping the scary.